Here we go. We are up. All right. Good afternoon. Happy Tuesdays. Still having my tea. Afternoons are like mornings to me. I stay up with the baby pretty late. I usually go to bed around like 6 a.m. I get up somewhere between like 10:30, 11:30 typically. Hey guys. Hey Shock, hey Sauce. Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like it might be 1 p.m., but it still feels like it's 9:30, to me. Oh, what's going on? What's going on? Baby's awesome. He's doing great. He's big baby. And he's getting bigger every day. And we had a really busy weekend. We had a bunch of people come to visit. In the last week, we have had, I think, 8. We've had like 8 people come to visit. Just to meet the baby. It was wonderful to see everybody. But it was like my friend from college, my wife's friends from college, my brother's in town, her parents were in town. It's just like everybody's here to see the baby. It's pretty cool. But so we're doing that and trying to work and figure things out. Weather's been nice for the most part. Summertime here in New England is beautiful. I love my Siffy. I still don't have Siffy. I don't have Siffy either. Yeah. And something happened last night, which made me debate whether or not I was going to continue going after the incarnate. So I don't think this is a particularly difficult fusion, but one of the things about the setup of this fusion is that you don't really have a lot of leeway. Because the extra fragments come from a summon rush, so that's the summon rush that's currently going on. Now, what happened was last night, the baby didn't settle down kind of as well as I would have liked. And so he was a little bit up and down and up and down. And as a result, I missed out on completing last night's artifact enhancement event by I had all the silver. Obviously I have all the silver, and I was actually in the process of doing my leveling, and the baby started crying, and then I went over there, and then I forgot about it. And then when I remembered, I came back and there was 2 minutes left on the event, and I was like, whatever, I'm just not going to worry about it. But here's the thing, I skipped the first summon rush. So that means I'm actually down 50 fragments. So I would have to do this summon rush and get all 50 fragments. Now, there's an upside here. A couple of things to consider. There's some upside here and there's some downside here. Let's start with the upside. The upside is that the point totals are actually reasonable compared to what we've seen in recent months. So typically this second batch of 25 champion fragments is usually around 5,100 points. So it's a whole sacred shard less. And the first batch here is typically around 3,000 to 3,100, something like that, 3,150. So, a little bit less there. In addition, we have bonus points on ancient shards. So double points. Instead of 20, we get 40 per ancient shard. And then instead of 200 per primal, it's 400 per primal. Now, I don't want to pull primal shards. I only have one anyway. I could go and do this on ancient shards. So it would take somewhere around 110. Call it 110 ancient shards, and then the rest in mystery shards. I could mix in some sacred shards. I could pull a few sacred shards. So here's the thing. I don't have that many ancient shards. But I have a chunk, but I don't have that many ancient shards, right? So I have 82. So I'd have to go and buy, say, call it 3 packs. 3 packs of, let's get that. 3 packs of the big shard packs, right? So 2,700 gems would get me 33 more shards, and I could do that. And again, I'm not 100% decided here, but so, you're talking about knocking me back down under 6,000 gems. I've been trying to rebuild my gems because I got a lot of champions that need masteries and stuff like that. So it's been a little bit tricky. So I'm like, do I really want to do this? Now, we talked about the positive, right? We talked about the positive. So lower point totals and the double points on shards. Now, the negatives are that this reward track is one of the worst reward tracks I've ever seen. It's a really bad reward track. Typically, by the time you get to this second batch of fragments, you've gotten a lot more rewards. And then after that, following after that, also, there are a lot more like legendary skill tomes available. So, you know, all I'm really getting here, I mean, the Immortal Soulstone's kind of nice, but all I'm really getting here are the fragments, right? 150 gems. It's a little bit of a rebate on my 2,700 gems. So, you know, we're talking about 2,550. That takes me to, again, you know, 5,800 or so gems left. Now, it's not the worst thing in the world. I could do it. I could definitely do it. We still have the Champion Chase coming up. I will be pulling my Astrid for the Champion Chase. So I definitely want to pull Astrid. I might pull Chronum as well. I might pull Varhal as well. These are champions that I want. But again, that's where the gems come in. I need the gems for masteries because I do not have the time and the energy to grind all these in Minotaur, even though as a free-to-play player, that's typically what I've done for most of the life of my account. I've probably at this point bought masteries for like 7 champions. In the first 2.5 years, it was 2 champions. And then, you know, it's been like one a month for the last 5-6 months, something like that. And that's primarily because of content. Like I'm trying to create content. It's not because I want to do that with my account. And then it's also just been, you know, the amount of time I have available to me. Let's see. Sorry, something going on over here. So you know, that's where I am on this. And like I like the Incarnate. I think she's kind of cool, but I don't know for certain that I would build her anytime soon. I really like the ally protection and strengthen combo. I think that's really nice. Plus she has the shield. A lot of survivability. Pairs really nicely with Arbiter. Pairs nicely with Arbiter. But so that's where I am on this. Now I have a little time to decide. All right, I still have a day and 15 hours to decide on this Summon Rush. So I've completed the Ice Golem tournament. I completed all the other events with the exception of the Summon Rush and the one artifact enhancement. But here's the other thing. I missed that artifact enhancement. Like I missed it. I messed it up. Now I haven't messed up a fusion in 10 months or something. This is only like the 3rd fusion I've ever messed up. And it's recoverable, right? Like I can still get there. But there's a lot going on for the next week for me. And if I mess up another one, then I will have invested all of these shards, you know, all of these ancient shards for nothing. Well, not nothing, but, you know, I won't get the fusion. The flip side is I could just collect fragments for Slixes, right? And then eventually turn those into fragments for Maud. So if I fail, there is a decent consolation prize. I guess I could get a copy of Slixes plus, you know, some extra fragments. That's where I am right now. I haven't decided exactly what to do yet, but that's what's been going on. All right, so that's not what this stream is about, but I just wanted to talk about that while we were getting into it. What is up with... Sorry about this. What is up with this red dot up here? Oh, cool. Forgot. I got to Gold Live Arena today. I like some of these other avatars, but I'm not really sure that any of them would replace... I mean, I kind of like that one, too. I just think the Gaelic one is so cool. Well, it's not bad. Hope you all got the promo codes from this week. All right, let's say hello to everybody. Alex, Jacques, Sauce, Reborn, Hawk, Gaming is in the house. Dinky, good to see you, Dinky. Burso, Caveman. Booger's back. Exile. Angelica, hello. Stephen Lynn. Well, Stephen, you got your chance today. We will talk about that in just a minute. Great Dane. Hey, Dane, man. It's great to see you. It's great to see you, Great to see you, Great Dane. Kayun, good to see you too. We got a lot of cluster folks in the house. I'd like to see that. Paul Red Plays cluster clan members. Mafia 08 doing better than me, Barry. You're 3/4 key nightmare. Oh, or 3 or 4. Sorry, 3 or 4 key nightmare. Aqua Puppy, hello. I love to see those little Paul Red Plays logos there, letting everybody know you're a member of the channel. I appreciate that. I do appreciate the support. Sunday, hey, good to see you. John Hodgson, ex-ace. Lisa Ventura, hello. From Boston, Mass, my old stomping grounds. I lived in the Boston area for the majority of a decade. It was a great time in my life, but I didn't meet my wife until I moved away. I didn't meet my wife until I moved away. Yes, that's correct. My brain is still mush from baby time. So, all right. It's not total mush. I could do takeovers. I can totally do takeovers. I'm in a good place for takeovers. You improved your Hydra team since the takeover, and you're doing better on gear. That's awesome, Ace. That is awesome. Yeah, baby brain is like, it's weird. So, I don't know. I don't want to do too much baby talk. But yeah, MJT. I am. Ian Godwin, good to see you. No, I'm actually, I can focus. And I actually got decent sleep last night, so I feel okay. It's just that the rhythm of your day is always thrown off, so that it feels a little weird getting into your day. And then, your day-to-day schedule is not the same. My day-to-day schedule is not the same, but I feel good. Baby's great. Wife is doing well. Poppy just got a haircut. She looks cute as a button. Hey, Mitchell. I do themes from time to time. Just because it's fun for me to mix it up. But no, today is it's going to be an open takeover day. So any kind of takeovers are available. You want clan bosses, you want dungeons, you want gear cleanses, you want Hydra, whatever you can request, I can try. I am not an expert in 100% of everything. You know what I mean? Like I can't necessarily, I'm not a magician. I can't fabricate solutions out of thin air. But if I can't solve your issue, hopefully I can guide you on how to progress towards a solution. So sometimes it's a takeover. Sometimes it kind of more leans towards just coaching. Especially if, for instance, you don't have a ton of silver. When we are mid-fusion, one of the things that I should say right now, make this very clear, is if you are worried about fusion resources and you don't want me to use resources, definitely let me know that if you win a takeover. I don't want to ruin your fusion event. So that's really important. But in general, yeah. Don't worry, it smooths out after 3 or 4 years. It's already getting better. He's starting to sleep for 4 hours at a stretch. Not every night, but he'll do 3.5 to 4 hours, wake up, have a feeding, go back to sleep for 3 or 4 hours. Although the last couple of nights he's had a feeding, woken up after an hour and needed another feeding, and then he slept for 3 hours. So yeah. Can I use Painkeeper if I don't have books for Wixwell? Sure. Try it. And it's cooldown reduction, champ. By the way, I don't really appreciate that spam, Tamir. I don't know how you posted it 9 times. If you want to post something like that, I have a Discord community. You can always ask for that kind of advice in my Discord community. these takeovers are, I try to focus on the one account. I do try to interact with chat just to say hello to everybody. And also sometimes I ask questions because it, you know, 2 heads is better than 1. We have 100 people here. 100 heads is better than 2. So, you know, I'll ask, but yeah, if you have a question, post it and be patient. Like, if I get to it, I get to it. If not, you can always ask the other members of chat. Yeah, no worries. I get it. You are highly motivated to get your answer, but I appreciate it. So yeah, Painkeeper cooldown reduction can potentially work. Now, here's the thing about cooldown reduction you should know. Cooldown reduction, like a 1-turn cooldown reduction, interacts with cooldown duration in a strange way. So if you have 1 cooldown reduction champion, you're not going to be able to put that cooldown wherever you want. And what can happen is you eventually lose the cooldown reduction in your rotation. And I'll show you what I mean. Well, I'll describe what I mean because I don't think I have the time to show you. You can see it in the clan boss calculator, but it's, so if you look at the cooldown reduction here, decreases the cooldown of all ally skills by 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown. Now, if a skill is already on a 3-turn cooldown, right? So imagine that it doesn't matter who you have, but you have somebody else, you have Wixwell who has a 3-turn cooldown, and then that's followed by Painkeeper's cooldown reduction, right? Now that's a 2-turn cooldown reduction, or 2-turn cooldown. So it happens faster. So imagine that this combat tactics was 1, like, turn order behind. So champion A goes, then Painkeeper goes. You've now reduced the cooldown. That skill is going to leapfrog the cooldown reduction. Right? Now the cooldown reduction is on the other side of that skill. And if it's a 3-turn cooldown, what will happen is all 3 turns will come off, and then the cooldown reduction will fire, and it won't actually reduce the cooldown at all. So the way to get it to line up is a 3-turn cooldown reduction can help if you have a 4-turn cooldown duration, right? But once you get to a 3-turn cooldown duration, what you need is you need either a 2-turn cooldown reduction, or you need 2 champions that have a 1-turn cooldown cooldown reduction. So if you can't, basically you can't repeatedly cooldown. You can't repeatedly reduce a cooldown that is equal or shorter than your cooldown reduction skill. Right? Like a 3-turn cooldown reduction skill can't repeatedly reduce the cooldown on a 2-turn cooldown reduction skill. It'll like skip, it'll skip and it'll do it every once in a while, but it won't repeatedly do it every single turn. And since, with the Infinity comp, you have a little bit of leeway with that, it may not matter. But it's better if Wixwell has a 4-turn cooldown. So if you already have your Wixwell booked, then Painkeeper's not really a great option. If you don't have him booked, then Painkeeper might make it work, but then damage becomes the question. Do you have enough damage? But you could try it. You could definitely try it and see if you get enough damage out of it. It requires a slightly different speed tune, but not a lot, because Infinity comps are basically like, they're just loops. So, hey, Silver Bullet. Captain Volcano, Pavel Grabowski's here. Got Matt Davis. Yeah, good to see everybody. All right, so let me explain what's going on in terms of takeovers if you've never done one. So you need to be a member of my Discord community. The link is in the description of this live stream. Go ahead and join the Discord community. You can do that basically instantaneously. Then on the left-hand column where all the channels are and stuff, you want to scroll down until you see an area called the Coaching Corner. Okay. In that area, there is a channel called the Wheel of Takeover. And in that, there is a message from Sun. I'm going to reset that message right now. I'm going to remove all the reactions. So if you've reacted, you're going to need to react again. So you're going to want to go ahead and react to Sun's message. Don't type anything, just react. That will enter you onto the wheel. Okay. And then when I'm ready, I will spin the wheel and the winner will get the takeover. In preparation for winning your takeover, you want to have your login information available. That's your email address and your password. If you have two-factor authentication on your account right now, that's fine. You'll have to send me that code when I log in. But if you don't have it on yet, don't add it right now because it can mess you up. It can take a little while to actually like go into effect. And so I've been locked out of accounts before that way. So don't do that. If you win, I'm going to send you a DM. Just DM me back with that information. Plus, you can just start telling me what kind of account takeover you're looking for. I will give you a role that will allow you to join a channel, a voice channel called Coaching Voice here in Discord. You want to join me in that channel so that you can hear me in real time because there is a delay on the transmission of the live stream. So mute the live stream and jump into the Coaching Voice. You won't be able to speak in the Coaching Voice. You won't have microphone permissions, but you will be able to hear me in real time. And you can just DM me any information I need to help you with your takeover. And that's basically what we do. You can win once in 90 days. So if you won in the last 90 days, you are ineligible. You can still join the wheel, but I would prefer if you didn't, because then if you win, we have to figure out that you're ineligible, and then it just wastes time. So, hey, Ephemeral, good to see you. Captain Fury, I just got Paragon. Is his cheese still a thing? Yeah, in certain areas, it definitely is still a thing. I don't use Paragon cheese solutions for anything, but it is still a thing. You got soap boxes for some reason? Joshua Lynch asks, am I eligible for a takeover yet? I can see the tag. If you can still see the takeover winner tag, then you are not eligible yet. That will automatically fall off 90 days after you win. Hey, Mitty, good to see you. If you can't see the tag, then you're clear. So the tag would just be on your server profile. So if you go in the right hand column, if you can find your profile, you can just click on it and you'll see all of the tags that you have. Wow, thank you, Alex. Don't forget to like and subscribe, support Cold Eddie. Alex has been a member for 6 months. Congratulations, Shadowkin. That's awesome. I have not been as active in the comments of my videos in the last few weeks. I am trying to get back into the swing of that. So I answered, like, I got back into it for like a day or two. I was like, yeah, I'm on a roll. And then, everybody showed up at my house for a week. So I haven't done it in like a week. I'm going to try to get back to it. So I do apologize to those members. You still have priority. I'm trying to answer you first. But it has been about a week since I've actually done that. Cold Daddy. Oh boy, that's going to be a thing, huh? Hey, LFC, good to see you. Mark has been playing for 12 days. Well, welcome to the game and welcome to the live stream. We're happy to have you here. And again, all right. So everybody who is interested in a takeover, make sure you have joined the Discord community. You've gone down to the Wheel of Takeover channel and you have reacted to Sun's message. I'm going to give it about 2 more minutes and then I'm going to fire off the first takeover. Last week I went pretty late. We did 2 long takeovers. I'm hoping to do quicker takeovers this week. Cold Daddy may not have been a thing, but it is now. Well, I am a dad now, right? So, and I'll always be Sun's daddy. It's fun trolling him sometimes. He's such a troll. He's such a troll. Be like, hey, son, how you doing? I'm doing great, Daddy. Thanks. Ooh. Yeah. I'm going to pay for that somehow, probably. Won't let you verify your account, Stephen Lynn says. I don't know what that is. The Discord link is in the description of this live stream. Big Daddy Cole sounds like an awesome blues jazz musician. You're right. You're right. That does sound pretty good. Sounds like we need a new role in Discord. I'm always up for those suggestions, but usually you can pass those through Sun. Sun will add the new roles in Discord. This one he might not want to add. Hey, cool. How you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, that's okay, Mark. If you're too early in the game, sometimes it's not worth a takeover, in the first 30 days or something. So just the nice thing about this is even if you don't get your takeover today, you can watch, you can listen, you can learn some, strategies, some solutions, some techniques. And that can daddy. All right, this is getting out of control here. Big Daddy Cole makes me think Princess and the Frog. I haven't seen that one. Hey, Sakid, good to see you. Welcome to the live stream. My fusion is on a razor's edge. It's still viable. I can still complete it if I want to, but I'm actually thinking about not doing it because I didn't want to skip it because, fusions give me something to do. Now that I'm only playing one account, it's like it gives me a focus, but I'm also just busy and tired, and I don't know that I want to be locked into doing this fusion, and I don't know that she's important enough or significant enough that it matters. She's cool. She could be free as a free-to-play player. I don't like to give up on free legendaries, especially because every once in a while somebody figures out a really cool solution for a champion or, in this case, maybe the duo, and it could be like good content in a month, and I don't necessarily want to lose out on that. So soon I will know all the kids' movies, probably. Yeah. This is your first skip since Lanathero. Wow. Wow, MJT, that's a long time. That's well over a year. That's like 16 months or something. Lanathero was like last March or something. Let me actually see if I can find out where Lanathero was. If you don't know about this, you can come to Hell Hades website and go up to Raid Shadow Legends. And right here where it says guide and tier list, there's past fusion events. And I like to come here and I actually do like research on the past events to see the patterns in the calendars and the point totals for various events, for the fusion champions. So let's see where Lanathero was. Oh no, it's earlier than I thought. Much earlier than I thought. Okay, Lanathero was August of 2022. So it's been almost 2 years that you have not skipped a fusion. Now, my first fusion was to Tura Rhymehide. But then my second fusion I think was Heliketh. It might have been Bivold. I might have done Bivold. I think I know I have him. I just don't remember if I pulled him from a shard. I think I completed him. And then I did 3 in a row. And then I skipped these 2 and I did Uko. And then I did Morrigan. I skipped and I did these 2, these 3. Yeah, so this is where I started really locking it in. So from Nishak on, I failed Razzlevarg. I was really disappointed. And then I skipped Jetney and Greathoof. And then I've done everyone since except for, I think, Bamboo. I skipped Bamboos. Yeah. I really wasn't too focused on fusions for like the first year and a half I played. I just wasn't. But. All right. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to spin the wheel here. Let's get this first one going. good luck to everybody for their takeover. Zinogre was your first? All right. Aqua, you have to save. You have to be really, really disciplined and save for a long time. Hey, Crop, good to see you, buddy. How you doing? Crop Show Games here. Absolutely excellent free-to-play player. You should go check out his YouTube channel. We had a tight battle during the HH free-to-play challenge this year. Always good to see you, Crop. Thanks for coming. All right, so we got a winner. Okay, let's see. You won previously on January 9th, so it is more than 90 days. More than 90 days. Olu, yeah. So it's cool. I like to spread them out and get them to players who haven't had takeovers, but we've had several repeat takeovers. So it's always cool to see the progression of the account as well. So I don't know. Do you have the same login information, or do I need your new login? I got to get rid of some old accounts here. Okay, make sure. Let me. I gotta give you the. Fine. Where are you? I'll just do it here. All right, you can now join the channel. Come hang out with me so you can hear me in real time. And let me know what kind of takeover you're looking for today. All right, so up to level 93. By the way, if you don't know, there are rewards here behind this YouTube premium thing. So if you click on this and you accept the official rules and click agree, there's like energy and silver and stuff. So you don't actually have to sign up for the thing. Like you would have to put in some information to sign up for the thing, but there's some rewards there. So if anybody's got that little dot left, you have, it's like a promo code worth of reward, like 200 energy or something. It's not bad. Oh God, all the red dots. Why do you torture me so? Why do you torture me so? You're looking for a Wixwell Infinity comp. Okay. And if there's time, Sand Devil Advancement. All right, so here's the thing. With the Sand Devil nerfs, I haven't actually dived into the new numbers yet, so we can certainly theory craft a little bit and experiment if you want there. But let's start with the Wixwell, and we'll see if we can get that done. Okay, and this is good. I mean, I still have to do one more video on Wixwell. I've been pushing it back because of real life stuff, but it will probably come out later this week. I want to do it before I go on holiday. My wife and I are taking the baby on holiday. We're going to go see my in-laws for 10 days. I will still be making videos and live streaming. I'm taking my rig with me, but but it's going to be chaotic. It'll probably be a little bit less consistent for the end of June. Yeah, okay. So let's go ahead and look at your roster. So you have Wixwell somewhere here. I'm assuming he's already built. He is. Okay. You have him at 250 speed. Mastery's not done, but that's okay. Masteries don't have to be done. Can't wait for what Infinity Comp, Alex? Yeah, Sauce. A couple of people have been telling me about the Aniri and Newt combo, and I haven't looked at that deeply into it yet, but I am interested. So we could potentially talk about that. All right, so let's go ahead and look at your buff extenders. Okay. You've got some options here. What I would probably do is I like I like Anchorite a lot. I don't know if you've built two specifically for this, like you wanted to use two Anchorites for this comp. I do like Demitha as well. I think she's great, although there can be a little bit of an issue with her shield on her A1. But hopefully we can work around that. So we'll just check the speeds. Here you're running at 301. Here you're running at 217. Okay. And then Wixwell is built. The defense is low here. So this is a problem. Like if I'm looking at the stats, I would shoot for 5K defense, and you're at 3,300 defense. So it may require a rebuild here on Wixwell. So this accuracy chest plate is probably the problem. And HP for this composition is not necessary. Okay, his shield is based on his defense, and you need as big a shield as possible. And then because the shield never comes down, you need him to take as little damage as possible, right? So defense is much more important. Normally, HP is the better tanky stat from 95% of situation. Although you balance it with defense, right? You use them in conjunction, but HP tends to be the better one because there is no ignore HP mechanic. There's like HP percentage damage, max HP, but it basically ignore defense becomes so powerful against defensive champion. So in general, I understand why you're leaning that direction. But what we really need here is we need a defense percentage chest plate. We need defense percent gauntlets. I know you have 21% defense here on the substats, so maybe we can get away with that. You have an accuracy banner. Okay. What we need in terms of accuracy, the comp works on Nightmare, but not on Ultra Nightmare. Yeah, we can take a look at that too. I'll take a look at your team. But I don't know why it's not working. If it's not, do you think it's not working because like you just end up taking too much damage and the shields break, or does it not work because the speed tune doesn't work? Because there are two differences, and the solution is different. Anyway, we'll look at that in a second. But what was I talking about? Oh, accuracy. So the accuracy for Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss is only 275 or 250. The shield falls off. Okay. All right. Raid stages tool. Clan Boss. Ultra Nightmare. It doesn't matter which one. 250. It's 250. All we need is 250 accuracy. Now, I will check Hydra. And again, it doesn't matter. Let's say Nightmare. If you were going for Nightmare Hydra, you need like almost 400 accuracy. But if you're not doing Nightmare, let's see about Brutal. Looking at 330. you know, the Head of Suffering messes things up. Like these stats are not that bad, but then the Head of Suffering adds 50 resistance. Now you can get an increased accuracy aura, you can get an increased accuracy buff, you can get a decreased resistance debuff if you have that on some other champion. So there are other ways to get that accuracy. I don't necessarily want to like tank your accuracy, but we need other stats. Right, so on Wixwell, though, you know, there are several reasons the shield can break. If you watch my earlier videos, in the everything about Infinity Comps video, I was talking about all of the factors that go into keeping the shield alive. And the first factor is the magnitude of the initial shield. You want the first shield to be as big as possible. And if his shield is your main shield, and you're not, you know, increasing somebody else's shield, then you really need a big shield. You need his defense over 5K. So let's go look at the clan boss team that you got set up. You don't have any keys. Let me see. There's a key available. Do you mind if I grab this key? Not worried about Nightmare Hydra. Yeah, I'm going to grab this key if you're okay with that. Okay. Okay. Good to know. See how much silver you got, by the way. Got 8 million. It's a little bit tricky because there is an artifact enhancement event that ended last night and another one that is starting like sort of tomorrow. Are you doing the fusion or do we not care about the artifact enhancement? You are doing the fusion. Okay. Is Blizzard here part of a Fire Knight solution? You can sell gear for more silver. Okay. Fire Knight hard, yeah. Okay. I'm assuming that Rearguard Sergeant here is not critical to any kind of speed tune. Could I potentially steal these gloves? Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let's do this. Let's set up the speed tune. Let's go check the speed. Okay. Good to know. So I can potentially steal those gloves. Okay, so this is the current speed tune. This is your Wixwell speed tune, right? I don't see another one. Okay. And it's a 2-to-1. So let's go ahead and check this one out. And I'm just going to plug this into the Clan Boss calculator. So I have I have a calculator up, and I'm going to just start plugging things in. So that's in the background. I'm going to start plugging in the speeds and the champions. Okay. So we have Haikatune in the lead, which gives us the 19% speed aura. She's running at what, 255? I will eventually get around to the armor sets and stuff if I have to. The Infinity comps are they tend to be a little bit more forgiving, so it's not always critical that you're at the exact speed. So sometimes you don't have to add all the extra stuff into the calculator, but we will take a look at it. 255. Wixwell is at 250. Let's get in that in there. Wixwell 250. Okay, now you have Anchorite 1 and Anchorite 2.
Happy Tuesday. Go get yourself a taco, smiley face.
Thanks, Neo. I appreciate that. Taco Tuesdays. You know what? Now I want a taco, man. I got a live stream for the next 3 hours, and I want a taco right now. But I appreciate I appreciate the chat. Thank you. All right. So Anchorite 1 is at 248. Anchorite 2 is at 270. Okay. 248. So let's add those to the calculator. Taco. What was the second Anchorite at? 240? 217. Then Geomancer. Who is running at 208. And let's see. Anchorite. Okay. Okay. You have one Anchorite opening with the A3, and then you turn it off, and then you turn this one off because you don't need to reuse that one. Okay. Which one is used? The faster one. Okay. Faster one uses the A3. Okay. Now, based on the AI, you're not doing anything with Haikatune here with the skills. You're not doing anything with Wixwell with the skills. Geo is opening with the A3. That's fine. Yeah, that's going to happen anyway. But okay. So I've now got this in the Clan Boss calculator. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let me just change the camera here so we can see a little easily. Okay. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is that although this kind of speed tunes, right, it's an alternating speed tune, it's not a 2-for-1. So one of the reasons why it's probably not working on Ultra Nightmare is because it's not a 2-for-1 on Ultra Nightmare. Now, maybe on Nightmare it is. It is. So on Nightmare, the speeds tune, right? You get a 2-for-1. But on Ultra Nightmare, you don't. You don't get it. You're not getting as many turns. Now, it's kind of close. 5, 6, 7, 8. And this is what, 7? 23. So, yeah, you're getting 23 actions, I think, instead of 30. So it's a bit slower, right? 25% slower, roughly. So you're getting fewer actions. The other thing that can happen here is with the buff extensions, you don't necessarily need Haikatun to use the A2 again. You need the speed buff. You don't need the turn meter fill. So what you can do is you can just start this off and, like open with it and then turn it off. And you can turn off her A3 completely. Now that's going to give you more A1s. I guess you could leave it on. It doesn't hurt to leave it on. It doesn't do anything. I don't actually know the multipliers on her A3, so if the multipliers are on her A3, she might do a little bit better damage that way. Now, Wixwell doesn't act, if you're opening with his A3, since each has a cooldown, like each skill has a cooldown of 3, it'll just cycle and it'll be fine, so that's not a problem. But you don't have to keep using... No, you do. You do have to keep using the A3, because you're trying to use him as the stun block. Now, remember that what he's going to do is he's going to put the intercept buff on the leader first. So Haikatun is going to get the first one, and then he has to do it again. So here on turn 2 over here, he's doing it a second time, and he's going to place it in turn order. That's what he's going to do. So he's going to put it on Haikatun first, then himself, then Anchorite, so on and so forth. So now, because Anchorite is the same affinity as Haikatun and Vaultkeeper Wixwell is the same affinity as Geomancer, you only have 2 affinities. And so this should be affinity friendly. It should work in all affinities. But you do have to check spirit, right? You have to see if the spirit thing throws it off. It doesn't, it probably won't, but you have to always check that. So let's see if we can get you to a 2-to-1 speed tune here. I'm trying to figure out, wait a second, what's happening with Anchorite's? So Anchorite's A3 is going off. Yeah, that can't work that way, right? That doesn't work that way. I think I have that wrong. Let me look in game. No, okay, I've got that right. The A3 is the opener. Yeah, and then the A2 is the priority. Okay, so that's correct. And then here the A3 isn't used at all. Okay. So you can actually see this. You can see this play out, like the A2. If I put this on a 3-turn cooldown, you'll notice the speed tune doesn't change. If I put it on a 60-turn cooldown, it doesn't change. So that 15% turn meter fill isn't enough to really change things. Now, at some speed tunes, in some speed tunes it is. But in this particular one, it isn't. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to manipulate this a little bit to see if we can get into a 2-to-1 speed tune. And I think what might be happening is you might have too much speed on this Anchorite here. I'm actually going to drop this Anchorite speed. I don't know for sure if that's the problem, but we'll see. All right, that didn't actually do anything. See how much, I mean, this hasn't changed the speed tune at all. We can drop 30 speed here. So a lot of times speed tune is about creating space. You need enough space in between the different champions in order to like cycle into that space to get faster. What you're basically doing is you're trying to take up all the slots so that you push the clan boss back. He drops his speed. He gets forced back into a slower speed. And if everybody either has to be right on top of each other, or you have to spread them out so that the spacing lines up the right way. And like, there's a whole complex mathematical thing behind that I don't know. I just do it by trial and error. Here we go. All right, so see, I slowed Wixwell down. I'm sorry, I slowed Geomancer down, and that created space. All right, now let's see what happens if we speed that Anchorite back up to where he was before. So he was at like 248 or something. All right, so that still works. That still works. Right. So here we're in a 2-to-1 speed tune. It happens relatively quickly. This is where you want to be. You're going to get more damage this way. You're also going to grow that shield better. Right. So remember that Wixwell every 3 turns grows his shield. So when you get to a 2-to-1 speed tune, he is going 6 times for the clan boss's 3 turns, which means he grows the shield twice for the clan boss's 3 turns. So that's better than growing it once or 1.5 times per 3 turns, right? So that's what you want to do. Now, it looks like, I'm just looking at the speeds again. 248, 217. Okay. So all we had to do is slow Geo down to 201. I'm going to go ahead and, I mean, I should put in everybody's armor sets and stuff like that just to make sure. So we'll do that in a minute. Now, what we have to do is we have to check spirit. And it breaks. But it does come into tune here. Okay, so it changes it, but it doesn't totally break it. So you do eventually get a 2-to-1 speed tune. The question will be whether or not Wixwell goes often enough here. So like Wixwell is going, so his A2 grows his shield, so he is growing it twice. Let me just go back for a second. Void. Now, see, here's the thing about this one. Even though the A3 goes off twice, which will help you with the stun target, his A2 doesn't, which means in the first 3 hits, Wixwell only grows the shield 1 time. All right, so if we increase his speed to 256, now you can see he grows the shield a second time here before the stun. Now that could really matter for the stun target, especially if the stun target's not super tanky. But then he only increases it once there. Let's see. We go back. He goes 6 times here. So that gives you 2. If we do this, so it's the same number of growths, right? Like A2, A2, A2. So 3 growths, and then he gets into the rotation down here on turn 6. Whereas if we do this, it's A2, A2 here on turn 3, and then A2 here on turn 4, and it's still 3 shield growths. And then, you know, you get into the rotation 1 turn later, but let's see if we speed him up more. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be really nice. We could get him up to 266. See what happens at 267. Here it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Okay, and if we do this, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I like this a lot. I like this a lot because he's actually growing the shield before the very first AoE. So he places his shield and actually grows it. And the only way that happens is because he's faster than Haikatune. And then we get into the 2-to-1 speed tune right here on turn 4. And you're going to get the maximum shield growth this way. Again, let's check Spirit Affinity. It'll probably change it. It takes a while to get into the 2-to-1.
but you still get the growth first. So this is really nice. So I like this a lot. If we can get that extra speed on him, we will try it. If we can't, that's fine. But I'm trying to theory craft here. I was like, all right, so do we need to slow Geomancer down? Let's speed Geomancer back up to his previous speed at 208. Yeah, so we really need him not at 208. We need him at 201. So we need to slow Geo down to 201. And we need Wixwell to be sped up to 267. So here's the question. Is Geomancer speed tuned for Iron Twins or something? Does he have to be at the 208 speed, or can I change his speed? All right, use your keys today. I don't see a speed tune with okay. Okay, so if we did this on Spirit, it would eventually tune, and that might be good enough for Spirit. It would definitely work on all of the other affinities, and it would tune really fast, like really quickly. And that'll probably be enough. I mean, that should be enough. Now, the thing about Anchorite is he has this increased crit rate and increased crit damage, so we only have to build at 60%. I'm sorry, 70%. Why 60%? 70% crit rate on Geo if we want that extra damage. But you really don't even care about that. Yeah, you don't even really care about that. But let's go ahead and look at Geo. So right now he's built with 57% crit rate. He's got plenty of accuracy. We just need to slow him down a little bit. Actually, let me go into the calculator and put it. So Geomancer has a speed set to perception sets. Okay. Speed and 2 perception. He has Lore of Steel. Let's go to Wixwell. 2 perception and speed and Lore of Steel. Look at High Katoon. High Katoon. Two speed, 1 perception. No Lore of Steel. 2 speed and perception. And then the 2 Anchorites. Fast Anchorite. And slow. Right. Fast. Fast Anchorite has 2 speed and no masteries. And Slow Anchorite has nothing. There's nothing. Okay. So let's just make sure that stayed, that worked, still works. It still does tune here. All right, so I can actually go up to 202 on this. It gives me one more extra point of leeway there, it looks like. But, okay. We really only need to change Wixwell and can I bring Wixwell down more? No, because we want to get that. Yeah, that's what we. All right. Sorry. I keep switching windows. All right, so the first most important thing here is we need to get Wixwell to, say, 5K defense, and we need to increase his speed to 266 build speed. So we need to add, 16 speed here, but we also need to add defense. So we're going to start here with what we were doing before. Primary stats of defense, substat of speed, and we can steal it from whoever. So this was what we were looking at. This would actually lose us speed, but this would give us more defense. We could potentially get that speed back. And then we need we could take these two. And then what we would probably want is to change the speed boots into perception, right? That would get us to 4660. Again, I don't care about HP. You can sacrifice all the HP in the world. We need the accuracy above 250. But really what we're concerned about is the speed. I don't know what you use Ultimate Death Knight for, so I don't know if he's speed tuned for anything. Is he somebody I can't touch? Or can I mess with him? You can rebuild UDK? Okay. I'm looking at Savage. I meant to be looking at Perception. That was weird. Sorry. Okay. Let's actually look at maybe bringing in, rather than, yeah, let's do this and check if there's something fast in the speed set. That's 18 speed. That would give us a nice little speed boost. We got most of the defense sorted here, but we've actually lost a little speed. Obviously, we've lost a lot of accuracy, but we're still above the number there. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got as a banner. It's good speed on that banner. We probably won't get a faster one. I'm trying to find a way to get to 266 speed, and I'm like, we need 20 speed. And we have 3 glyphs available. That's, that's not fast enough. So let's go back here and look at defensive pieces again. Problem is, this gauntlet's very fast at 19 speed. Oh, what if I looked at flat defense? Do you have any flat defense? All right. It's okay. We won't be able to hit the speed, but we can try it anyway. We can try it anyway. All right, let's take this all the way up. Nice. 49.99 on defense. Okay, so we're going to be over the 5K mark. We'll get the speed back to where it was. So I'm going to go back to the speed tune. I'm going to slow this back down. This was at 250. We might be a little bit faster. So let's see if doesn't matter if we get a little bit faster. Yeah, we would like to get to 254 if we can, or higher, which would be fine. We can do that. This doesn't matter. Well, we can get to 254. That would be good. And this is going to be speed and perception. 254. We can do that, or faster. That's fine. All right, so let's go ahead and equip that. No. And then we're just going to go ahead and put some speed glyphs on. That works. That's 252. This shield doesn't have speed on it. Which speed were we trying to get to before? 260. Would be 267. This is 264. So if I can get 3 speed on a glyph, we can actually hit the 267. Okay. There we go. We actually made the speed. Okay, we'll do that. That's even better. 267. Exactly what we wanted. So I've changed the speed tune back. Now let's see what happens if we speed the Geomancer up. Yeah, we still have to drop the speed on the Geomancer. Preferably to 202 or 201. Let's go look at the Geomancer. And the easiest way to slow him down is going to be to drop his speed on his banner. So we don't have to mess around with it too much. Now, this accuracy chest plate, I don't love. I would prefer defense there. Because he's got barely over 3k defense, and so his shield could break too. But for right now, we're just going to do it step by step. We're not going to... Sorry. I'm looking at Geo right now. So you can see his stats are kind of low. Let's see. Actually, look at... Okay. 3k. Let's look at everybody's defense. Let's look at the anchorites. Okay, this one's not going to fly. This is just way too low. 1900 defense? It's not high enough. That's not high enough. What about this one? Again, not high enough. So that's why you're failing. That's why the shields are failing. 1900 defense. Everybody should be at 3k defense. So again, you know, the crit damage gauntlets, right? You want defense gauntlets. Even though you're building this guy in a shield set, normally you want HP. I would say defense is the more important stat. You need to get to that 3k defense on everybody. So, you know, if this is the guy in the shield set, yeah, maybe he has a little more HP. Maybe you focus a little more HP in like down here. You don't need crit damage on your amulet. You want defense on your amulet. You don't want resistance here. I know you wanted to hit speeds, you know, so that might be a factor, but we want defense here or at least HP. But you need 3k defense on the anchorites. And that's going to change speeds again. So let's see what we can do here. Maybe we can bring in some damage. Is much less important here than you might think, because you're going to get 1500 turn. you're going to go to the turn limit, which is going to be like a minimum of like 120 or 130 clan boss turns. It could be as many as like 200 clan boss turns. It kind of depends on, you know, how many turns you're actually taking within the clan boss turns. But let's go for defense here. This immortal piece might work, but we can't lose that much speed, right? This got 15 speed. That's not a bad piece. We could use that piece. speed. Not a huge deal, though. We can slow him down. We're allowed to slow him down. It shouldn't mess up the speed tune. But, you know, that one piece alone gets you 400 extra defense, and this isn't even maxed out. All right, what I'm going to do here, because I don't think we have the gear. I don't think we have the gear to get it all the way home, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to... I'm going to try to speed tune it. And then we'll see how far it goes. Yeah, I don't even think I just have to stick to speed. I think that's perfect. We do lose defense because we have a defense banner on right now. Yeah, okay. That's not enough. We rolled too well on the speed. That's a really nice banner, though. We'll be able to use that in the future. And we rolled out perfect, too. How about this one? That'll roll 2 into HP, right? And it won't give me enough speed. Right? Exactly. We knew it had to happen. It had to happen that way. I can't give away 15 speed. I have to give away 6, 7. Let's see how slow I can go. Can go slower. Yeah, I can go slower. Okay. $193. Make it lift back up. Let's just do that. That ends up at 195. Okay, let's do that. So again, here in the speed tune, I've gone down to 195 on Geomancer. You can see it's still speed tuned just fine here. On Void, and then in Spirit, same thing. It speed tunes where it was before on turn 11. Okay, so we have the speed tune. Now, again, if you look at the Anchorite, right? Like we have this Anchorite, you can slow down the Anchorite quite a bit. You can slow them down 20 or 30 speed before the speed tune really changes on you. And even still, like here, it's still speed tune. You do have to, again, check the Spirit. You may have to change, you know, the the skill order depending on where you need the buff extension. But you have a lot of flexibility here with this anchorite. So that means that when you start changing gear, when you start getting gear in game and you can get that anchorite's defense up, that'll be fine, right? You can do that because speeds won't be critical, right? You have so much leeway that you'll be able to get a defensive chest plate on it. It's really important to get to, I would say 3K defense is sort of a minimum, but it may be that you can get away with a little bit less. Maybe you can get away with like 2.8K or something. One other thing that you can do is you can come in here to the Great Hall and as your area bonuses, start stacking up Demon Lord, start stacking up defense. Not ignore defense. There we go. Demon Lord battles, stack up the defense here because this will help get you, free stat. So I would definitely start doing that. But okay, so now let's go into the clan boss. I'm gonna go to Ultra Nightmare. And we're gonna try this. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that the speed tune actually works. Like regardless of the shield breaking, let's just make sure the speed tune works. So we're going to start it off. And we want to make sure that everybody's doing the right skill here. Let me get myself out of the way again. I have another camera somewhere, don't I? Yes. Okay. So you can see you have the shield up from the shield set, right? And you can see what that icon looks like, right? It looks different than the other shield that we're going to see. So we are going to get a shield. Now here what's going to happen is Wixwell is actually fast enough to go first. So he's going to put up the second shield. And the size of that shield really matters. That's where you need that extra defense from Wixwell. So that 5K defense gives you a nice chunky shield here. Now you have two shields up and you can see the two different icons, right? You also have an increased defense, by the way. So the third icon is that increased defense. Now we're going to get the speed buff and the turn meter fill. And now I think we get, I forget if we get a buff extension. No, we get the crit rate buff there, but here we get a buff extension. Okay. And then Geo goes. Now we're back to Wixwell. Now he's going to grow the shield before the clan boss even does his first AoE. This is incredibly important because basically we're multiplying the largest shield that we've got. Right? The size we're multiplying based on it's 3% per buff. So right now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buffs on everybody that can be extended. You actually have 7 on Wixwell that can be extended, right? The buff on Haikatoon, the intercept buff cannot be extended, so that doesn't count. So we're getting an 18% shield increase. So imagine, 18% of 1,000 is 180. But 18% of 10,000 would be 1,800. So the larger shield that we can multiply, the better off we are. So we want a really big initial shield, and we want to multiply it before the clan boss does any damage to it whatsoever. And you can see how big the shield got, and now we're going to get smacked. Okay. Now we're going to keep cycling around, and we're going to get the buff extension from the second anchorite. Now the buffs should never come down. It looks like the speed tune is fine here in terms of speed tune. Now we do get the slow here, which means it's going to take a little bit longer to cycle because it is Spirit Affinity. Now something that's kind of interesting here is we do have the anchorite has the mini cleanse, right? So the anchorite is actually removing the slow, which is helpful. So it gets removed quickly, but it doesn't, it still has an impact on the turn that it gets. All right, now here's an issue is that Wixwell isn't the stun target, right? The stun target has moved to Geomancer. Now, for us, that's kind of a good thing. It's not great. We would prefer it to be Wixwell. Eventually, the intercept buffs will go all the way down to Geomancer. He is in the last spot, so he may get stunned twice. But Geomancer at least has 3K defense. If Anchorite was the target, he would lose his shield. So the question is an Anchorite going to lose their shield first, or is the Geomancer going to lose his shield? So Wixwell should not lose his shield, and hopefully Haikatoon won't lose her shield. But we'll have to see. Now, typically when this breaks, it'll break before turn 20. So we don't have to go like boss count 20, you know. We don't have to go too far. All right, so we get shield growth. That's so important. You can see how the shield's still getting bigger. Geo isn't taking crazy damage, which is good. The Anchorites and Haikatoon are actually taking more damage, even though they're neutral affinity. And it's entirely because Geomancer's just got more defense than they do. But shields are still going up, which is good news. Now, I would be astonished if this worked. Like, if this went fully the whole distance, I think the shields will have to break because I don't think the defenses are high enough. But there's a small chance that it could work simply because Geomancer has enough defense and he's going to be the one, you know, he's the weak affinity. He and Wixwell have the most defense. They're weak affinity, and Geomancer might have enough defense even to be the stun target. And if the other champions are only getting hit with the 2 AoEs and their neutral affinity, they might even survive. They might. I don't think so. I don't think they will, but they might. But what that would mean is you would absolutely not survive Magic Affinity. All right, Magic Affinity will break the shields on Haikatoon or Anchorites because one of them is going to end up being the stun target, and they do not have enough defense. So this might actually get you a 1-key Ultra Nightmare on a specific affinity, but it's not going to work on every affinity because you just don't have the stats yet. But that's okay. Like that actually lets us know that, you know, the stats on the non-stun targets are like really reasonable. You just have to control the stun targeting then. Right now, this is looking very good. I'm surprised at how good this is looking. Honestly, I didn't think we would go this far. We'll have to see what happens after turn 20. Because that's when you get the multiplier again, the clan boss multiplier. Look at that shield on Geomancer. That's massive. Now, I built several Wixwell teams. I tried several Wixwell comps, and I struggled. I mean, I was doing a 4-3 comp where everybody had like 3,500 defense, and it wasn't working. And I know this is a 2-1 comp, but I'm just surprised that I'm surprised at how good it's working with those kind of low defensive numbers. Okay, you can see how much damage that shield took there on the Anchorites. The Anchorites took a hefty amount of damage. Let's see something. I wish I wish this screen gave you the value of the shields and the value of your HP pool. Yeah, the intercept is on everyone now. We don't have to worry about stuns. Now, here's the thing. Since Geomancer got stunned, that doesn't matter because Geomancer doesn't affect the duration of the skills, right? Like the buff duration. If Wixwell or Anchorites got stunned, you would have a problem. It also doesn't matter if Haikatoon gets stunned, by the way. I know that normally it does matter if your speed booster gets stunned, but remember, you don't need the turn meter fill. Once the buff is on, Haikatoon can actually get stunned. So that's okay. But none of the buff extenders can get stunned because if they lose a cooldown duration, then the buffs have a chance of falling off. Typically, you actually have one. You do have a leeway of one turn, because nothing will ever drop below one. Nothing will ever drop below two. I'm sorry, nothing will ever drop below two. So if you lost one turn, that would just mean nothing would ever drop below one. So you could actually even absorb a stun on the buff extenders one time, depending on when it happened when you were using the skills. But right now it looks surprisingly good. I did not expect this. I honestly thought that with 1900 defense, you did not have enough defense on these Anchorites. I am certain you don't have enough defense on it for Magic Affinity. That's absolutely true. Remember that when the clan boss is strong affinity, not only does it get extra crit rate, but its regular hits do 30% more damage. It can strong hit more frequently. It can crit more frequently. Plus, one of the Anchorites or the Haikatoon will become the stun target, so they'll be taking 3 hits instead of 2 hits. And so you definitely need the defense in that case. But it looks like when you are neutral affinity and you're not the stun target, you can get away with 2000 defense. I am shocked by that. I did not know that was going to happen. Now, I don't know if this will go the full duration. I don't know if that's actually what's going to happen. But we'll go until we get a 1 key Ultra Nightmare. And we'll see how that looks. I forget, does Anchorite have a mini cleanse? Not a mini cleanse. Anchorite does have a mini cleanse, but not also a mini enemy buff duration reduction or whatever. Let me take a look. Removes 1 random debuff from all allies, then increases the duration of all. So it's a mini cleanse. Okay. So just wondering if we could get that increased attack buff off of the boss, but we can't. Unless Geo, does Geo have something like that? Geo has something, right? Geo steals some buffs or something. What is Geo? Removes all buffs from a target enemy that attacks him. Steals all buffs instead of the target is under an HP burn debuff placed by this champion. So Geomancer can steal the buffs. Okay. So that might actually be important in terms of the skill usage of Geo's skills. So the clan boss always gives himself an increased attack buff on the first AoE so that the second AoE hits with it and the stun does as well. But you could remove it with Geomancer and it would actually literally never affect the never affect the damage. Obviously, Geomancer is weak affinity here, so you're going to miss on that skill sometimes. Because I do think it's a hit, right? It says removes all buffs and then attacks them. So maybe it can't miss. But so like right now, if Geo uses his A2, there we go. Stole the buff, right? Took the buff away. You can see it's actually on Geo, which is helping Geo in two ways. That means his shield is growing a little bit larger by an extra 3% because that buff can be extended. And then simultaneously it's removing the buff from the boss, which means the boss does less damage on his attacks. So that's great. That's awesome. I don't know where the critical mass line is. I don't know because I haven't tracked all the data, so I don't know if you're ahead by turn 13, you're going to stay ahead, or turn 17, you're going to stay ahead, or turn 22, you're going to stay ahead. Certainly, the curve could be flatter or steeper, but there has to be it's a race against the boss, right? And so there's sort of there has to be a formula for which it's okay, these two curves never intersect, and I don't know if that's predictable based on turns. So even though theoretically, you could have a curve that's flat enough to intersect with the damage curve at turn 200, it may be that it's in practice that's not possible to actually do. Anyway, this is kind of fun. I'm having fun. Yeah, I figure I'm past it at this point. Although, again, like I said, you could have a flat enough curve that it intersects at turn 100 or 200 or whatever. Now, the other thing that we can kind of figure out is the damage here, right? So you see we're only at 37 million. We have enough turns. We have enough turns to get past the 72 million or 71 million threshold. We definitely do. We'll do enough damage before we hit the 1500 turn cap. But this is not a lot of damage. This particular comp is not a lot of damage right now. Now, there are a couple of reasons for that. One is we don't have masteries on either anchorite, right? So if you get the masteries on your anchorites and you put your War Master procs on them, that's going to give you probably another 8 to 10 million per champion, maybe 12 million per champion. So you're going to be talking about maybe another 20 million in overall damage just from that on those two champions. Likewise, Geomancer doesn't have 100% crit rate. We don't have that there. I didn't even look at the Haikatoon, so I don't know what the Haikatoon has. You could consider, for instance, a toxic set. You're not filling up the debuff bar here. You could certainly use a toxic set on one of the anchorites, the non-shield anchorite, to try to get some extra damage there if you wanted it, if you felt like you needed it. But the goal here would be to get your one key comfortably and then be able to use quick battle, right? That would be the goal. But like I said, you won't be able to use it against Magic Affinity. It won't work against Magic Affinity. It should work fine against Force Affinity. I'm not sure about Void Affinity. So Spirit and Force look good, right? Because the thing about Force Affinity is that it's the same thing as Spirit Affinity for your team, but it's actually better for you. In this particular case, you have 3 neutral affinity champions and 2 weak affinity champions, right? The 2 Force Affinity champions are actually weak. And your 3 Spirit Affinity champions, which are your weaker builds, right? Your less defensive builds. Those are the neutral affinity champs. But when you go up against Force, it's going to be reversed. The Spirit Affinity champions will actually be strong, right? So Geomancer will still be the stun target against Force Affinity because the clan boss is not going to hit any of the Spirit Affinity champions. So that'll actually be even better for you in terms of survivability. So those 2 affinities should be totally fine. Now, in terms of the Void Affinity, when everybody's neutral, my guess is Haikatoon is going to be the stun target, at least at first, and then maybe one of the anchorites. So I don't think, Geomancer is going to be the stun target. you don't have to worry about the extra crit rate. You're not going to take the extra 30% damage. So it may be that Void Affinity is good too. It may be. Or if it's not, you may be able to just like put some extra defense on High Katoon, and that might be enough. As long as the stun target doesn't change. And then finally, you have Magic Affinity. Now, Magic Affinity is the worst for you because your weakest champions are now weak affinity. They will be the stun targets. They're going to get the extra 30% damage. You get the extra 15% crit rate. So that's the bad news. So you may be good on 3 affinities. You will be, if you're good on this affinity, you're good on 2 affinities minimum. Yeah. Saf from HH has a video on I mean, there are a lot of videos on the Wixwell thing. On the Wixwell Infinity comp. Hey, Selena Feline, good to see you. Yeah, I mean, there is another option here, which is pulling one of the anchorites for a different buff extender. Now, the one I was actually thinking about was your Demitha. Now, the reason Demitha can be really good is because you can actually continue to use her block damage buff. Right? It only works for the first 50 turns, but that decreases the amount of damage your shields take overall. So imagine like you could negate, say, the damage on the first shield, the first AoE or the second AoE, just completely negate it for everybody. That would give you an opportunity to keep that shield much larger for the first few multiplications. And that would potentially accelerate your curve faster and stay ahead of the clan boss that way. So I really like her. She's also always going to be neutral affinity, so she's not going to take a lot of extra damage. You could get a Valerie in there for an increased attack. I think she gives an increased attack, right? A lesser increased attack, which would give you another buff. You could bring in, I mean, depends, Corvus would be awesome, right? Corvus would give you poison sensitivity, increased debuff duration, plus he's a defensive-based champion, plus he has the passive mitigation, so he's going to reduce the amount of damage that your entire team takes by up to 25%. So there are options for other buff extenders, but it just feels like you built these two specifically, and it works. Like it works fine. The buff extenders are not critical. The nice thing about Anchorite is he gives you 2 buffs, right? He gives you increased crit rate and increased crit damage, which is like both helpful in terms of damage, but also helpful in terms of multiplying your shield. So if you brought in a second different buff extender that gave you another buff that isn't currently on the board, that would give you another multiplier. And that's where like the Valerie could come in. Maybe even the Demitha. I think the Demitha drops continuous heals, right? So that would be an option as well. I don't know. It's not an AoE heal though, is it? Is it one champion at a time? Let me look. No, it's continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. And so if you just fired that off, you would have the extra buff there as a multiplier as well. All right, we're about to hit 1 key damage. We'll let it go a little bit longer, and then we'll call this a takeover. So, Olu, do you have any questions? Do you have any thoughts, any concerns? I mean, this is great. I have to say, I really am surprised that the defensive numbers that you had on your anchorites worked. But again, I'm 99.99% sure they won't work on Magic Affinity. Somebody's shield is going to break. So if you can avoid Magic Affinity, it may be that the other 3 affinities work. but Magic Affinity is going to break this team. So, Mark, basically for this particular composition, the reason defense is so important is because defense on Wixwell, and it like that determines the magnitude of the initial shield. The size of the initial shield is really important because we're trying to multiply the shield, right? We're not adding to the shield, we're multiplying the shield. So the larger the starting number, the more you get out of each multiplication. The second reason defense is important on everybody is because the clan boss doesn't ignore defense. So the amount of damage that the shield takes is not determined upon your HP. It's determined upon your defense, right? HP doesn't reduce the amount of damage you take. Defense does. So the more defense you have, the less damage you take from the clan boss, the less the shield shrinks when he hits it. And therefore, when you multiply it, you're multiplying a larger shield, right? Again, it's the same thing, the shield multiplication. This is one of the few places in the game where that's actually true. Okay? In most other places in the game, your HP is the better tanky stat. Now, you do have to balance defense and HP. You don't want no defense and a ton of HP. That's not helpful. You don't want to have too much defense and no HP. And the reason is usually in a lot of places, there's some ignored defense mechanic, right? There's something there. Even if it's just like a decreased defense. Decreased defense is like, you know, it's more powerful if your enemy has stacked defense. And then HP affects things like healing, right? It also affects things like getting one shot. So defense is good. HP is good. And if you're trying to balance a champion and you're not sure which to add a little bit more to, typically you go with HP. Except, remember, also for defensive-based champions that do damage based on the defense stat, defense gives you extra value in that it also increases how much damage you're doing. So, for instance, when you have somebody like Wixwell and you drop defense on them, you increase the size of the shield, you improve their survivability, and you improve their damage all with one stat, and that's very efficient. So in that case, defense tends to be better than HP most of the time. So there's a lot that goes on in calculating that. It's a good question, though, and I'd say as a new player, you want both. You want both. You want to kind of balance both. And you're going to be constantly increasing your defense stat, and you're going to be constantly increasing your HP stat up to a point. So 3,000 defense is sort of the breaking point for like now you're really focused on tanky champions. So normal champions might run, you know, early to mid game might run 1,500 to 2,000 defense. And as you progress later in the game, might get up to 2,500 or something. But 3,000 is where you get like sturdy, where you start to really get sturdy, especially against sort of the end game stats that you see. So, and then defensive based champs, you're going to be pushing 5K, 6K, 7K on a couple of champions. Wixwell is one of those. Valkyrie's another one. Maybe Helikath is another one. There aren't that many champions that need that much defense. So typically when you get to 4K, you're like, yeah, I'm pretty good for 99% of content or, 99% of builds. And then there are some builds that require more. Especially if you're trying to push damage. Yeah, and that's okay, because remember that like you're going to be growing your Great Hall, and your Great Hall is free stats, right? So your area bonuses, your Great Hall bonuses, your PvP bonuses, all of those also add to your stats. So as your account ages and you just progress in the game, you're going to get free stats on top of the fact that you're going to get better gear. So don't worry if you can't hit 3,000 defense right now. That's okay. You're only, what did you say, 12 days into the game? Like I wouldn't expect you to get 3,000 defense right now. Yeah, if you are 2,000 and 2,500 on Artak, Rector, Kale, that's good. Like Kale probably doesn't even need that much right now. That's a good amount to have on Rector and Artak, though. Yeah, shock. Right, Islan, the more defense you have, the better off you are. There are a few champions like that. Yeah, that's also possible, LFC. I didn't really look at Geo's skills that much. But all right, so we've hit 105 million here. There's still 400 turns to go. So this is probably somewhere in the vicinity of like 125 million, 130 million on this, which like I said, I am shocked that we survived. Getting into a 2-to-1 speed tune definitely helped. And I think one of the big things that really helped is we got that first Wixwell multiplier off before the first clan boss A1. That's incredibly important. That means you're multiplying the maximum size shield, right? Both the artifact shield and Wixwell's shield got multiplied before they took any damage. And that just meant that the initial magnitude of the shield was much, much larger than it would be otherwise. Imagine if your first multiplier went off after the clan boss took the damage, right? Into the shield. Then that first multiplication is going to be, I don't know, half the size. And so I think that speed change was really critical. And I also think the fact that we just happen to be in an affinity where Geo was taking the stuns, right, and being tankier than everybody except Wixwell, I think that just happened to help. But this is awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. We will accept this damage and take that result. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize you had already done that. So yeah. So, out of this 189 million, what did we just have? 105 million or 106 million came out of that one key. So now you've got this one key. And again, I think this is going to be true for Spirit Affinity and Force Affinity. I'm not sure about Void Affinity. You'll have to check that out. And I'm certain it won't work for Magic Affinity unless you make your champions tankier. Let's take a look at Haikatoon just real quickly before we leave. See if she's tanky enough. So she's close. She's much closer, right? So this is what, 2,800 defense, something like that. 2,700 defense. So here we're getting a little bit of extra defense from the area bonus, 2,741. So I think that, you can potentially, now, first of all, this crit rate glove is not necessary for her, right? She doesn't need to do damage. Accuracy is fine. Accuracy is good on her, although it doesn't play in the clan boss fight, right? Because she has no buffs that can land, and she has no effects that can land on the clan boss, because the clan boss is immune to slow and turn meter reduction. But accuracy generally on her is not bad because she has a slow on her A1, right? Decreased speed, and then she has turn meter reduction on her A3. So this is good for general content. But I would certainly consider changing this banner to either accuracy or defense or HP, because you don't need damage out of her either. And then you don't need crit rate out of her. So get, defense or HP percentage here on the gauntlet, make her much more survivable. But specifically for clan boss for this speed tune, you're going to want as much defense as you can realistically stack onto her. Like I said, I think if you get over 3K, you're probably fine. Yeah, there is that idea. You could swap Dracomorph in for Geomancer. I'm not sure that that's going to have a major swing. I don't know that Draco's going to do more damage. Draco brings poisons, which are nice, especially when you're going a long time. And you have the weaken and the decreased defense, but you already have the weaken and we don't have a decreased defense, but you already have the weaken. No, does Geo also bring a decreased defense? Brings a weaken, right? Just the weaken. So, you lose the HP burn, you get poisons, you keep the weaken, you get a decreased defense, but you don't get the reflection, and you do get, the easier stat trade. I think Geo is the perfect damage dealer for this. I wouldn't swap Geo out. If I got a Geo, this is the one, team composition I would actually put Geo into, because I think Geo is going to just do all the damage. But again, as far as damage is concerned, you have enough, but if you wanted more, we got masteries here, we got masteries here. By the way, if you do end up going, like for Lore of Steel, you get a few more stats there in terms of HP. Like, that'll improve. Well, no, you don't have an immortal set here, so but I do think like get this crit damage gauntlet off as soon as you can. Obviously, you needed to complete a shield set. I get it. You had to have a shield set. But look for other options in terms of shield set. We want defense percentage. We want HP percentage on the gauntlets. Yeah. Yeah, Wixwell isn't full masteries. High Katoon full mastery? No, High Katoon's not full masteries. You have so much more damage available, but you don't need more. You don't need more damage. That's not critical. What you need is more survivability for Magic Affinity, or you need to really try to avoid Magic Affinity if you can. Right? Like fight. See if it works against Void. If it works against Void, just fight Void whenever you can, and try to avoid Magic Affinity. All right, so I think that is it for this one. Olu, I haven't seen you chat in a little while, so I assume you have either you're all good or you've faded out. But yeah, works great. As far as Sand Devil is concerned, like I said, I haven't tested the new stats yet. But certainly this combo could work if you have it speed tuned the right way. You may have to manual, by the way, on the way up until you get to the point where your speed tune kicks in. Okay. Yeah, so any last questions? Was able to do that with only like 3 million silver, so that wasn't too bad. You still have plenty of silver for your fusion if you're going to do it. Great. Yeah, you could run defensive masteries too if you need it. That's true. Okay. Yeah, so here's the thing about so Fire Knight is where you get the shield set. And I think you need good shield gear. And then as far as like other sets are here, you can obviously Savage is good for offense, but you could like go defensive with regeneration on somebody. That's fine. You don't need the regeneration for this comp, but defensive build and regeneration could be good. And then obviously, speed set is always good for you come in here. You could even substitute accuracy because the speeds aren't that crazy, so you don't necessarily need tons and tons of speed on everybody. Stalwart is another set to really consider. If you have a good Stalwart set, that can go on somebody, especially if like you have a stun target, right? Because this will reduce the amount of damage they take from the AoEs, so that can be good. The other sets to consider, I mean, from here, you could like get an old school defense set. Reflex is actually not bad. You could put that on one of the buff extenders if it's nice and defensive. You could put a retaliation set on people. That's fine too. I don't think there's anybody whose A1 is going to mess up that composition. But I do think that the thing that you actually want to do is you want to get in here. You want to forge up all these perception pieces. Like get as much really good perception gear as you have. You have materials in here. Resilience is also great. Use up as, like during the next CVC, spend some time forging some gear for yourself. Another good set, if you have any stuff here, is the Defiant. Even some good 5-star pieces could be worthwhile. Fortitude's not bad either. I would say, a Guardian set would be okay. If you had a really good Guardian set on like Wixwell, that might be okay. Because he's going to be the most defensive champion. And that could reduce the stat burden on some other champions. But so you have opportunities to get gear. You don't just have to grind it in dungeons. The Forge sets, there are a lot of good Forge sets for you for this. But I think, focused on that perception gear. You will never, ever, ever have enough perception gear. Like good perception gear is it's the single most versatile gear set in the game after speed, right? Like you need speed gear, then you need perception gear, and then all of the other gear sets combined might equal how many of those two sets you use. Like you'll use as much speed and perception as every other gear set in the game. At least I do. You know, I have 200 sets of each of those gears in use. You know, so it's like, it's crazy how much of that you use. All right, so that is it here for Alu Costa today. Thanks for letting me tool around on your account. What I am going to do is I am going to reset the reaction. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to reset the reaction channel for the Wheel of Takeover. Go ahead and do that right now. And I'll delete the wheel. So you can start reacting right now if you want to take over. Again, remember to have your login information available. I am going to quickly run to the bathroom. Let's get rid of this. Speed this up. I'm going to quickly run to the bathroom. I will be back in like, let me change. There we go. I'll be back in 2 minutes, and then we will we'll pull for the next takeover. All right. See you in just a minute. Hey, Darn. Thanks for hanging out. My wife and baby are in the bedroom. They have the door closed just because it's quiet, you know, so he can nap. And the dog is outside the door with a ball in her mouth, just looking at the door, like just looking at the door jamb, like shaking her butt, just being like, "I want to play, I want to play, I want to play." She's just staring at the door. I'm like, I feel bad. It's like I'm going to be streaming for another hour and a half, and you know, the baby's napping, so dog's not going to get any playtime anytime soon, but she's super cute. I'm just like, oh, I just walked to the bathroom. She looked at me. She was like, "You want to play with me? You want to play with me? You want to play with?" No, sorry. Sorry, sweet girl. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the, all right, we got some reactions here. Let me just, I got to find Olu again. All right, so let's go ahead and react. Oops. Here we go. See what the wheel wants today. Good luck to everybody. Moo goes the cow. Mark, if you're asking about me, I live stream here every Tuesday, starting around 1 p.m., sometimes a little bit later, depending on, what my days is looking like. These bananas. These. Okay, I gotta double check. You win a lot. So you actually won on May 7th, but it wasn't enough time. Enough time hadn't passed. And then you won on, when did you win? Let's see. You won on February 27th. Okay. So it's been over 100 days. It's 105 days since you won. You should be good. You are good. You are good. All right. So you've won 3 times in 105 days. But obviously the second one didn't count because it had been not enough time. All right, D's. So let me see. Let me go log in. By the way, if you had an alt account and you wanted to take over on an alt account, that's always fine too. But all right. We got a Sun Knight here. We got an alt tonight. I've got your login from last time. All right. These banana. You want a Demitha team? All right. You want a Demitha clan boss team? All right. Right now you've got a 3-key Ultra Nightmare. Okay. A pretty solid 3-key Ultra Nightmare. I want to take a look at your roster for a sec. I mean, I usually do this. Like, how many login days are we at? Okay, you're on the Cleopteryx, so you've just passed 270 days. Although it takes 120 days to get Cleopteryx, I think, which is kind of ridiculous. But so somewhere between 270 days and 390 days. And you are level 73. You are a member of the Ultimate Sun Knights. Good for you. It's a fun clan. You guys have a fun clan. But another member of the Call Red Plays cluster, which is great. Okay, so roster-wise, you just pulled a Demitha, you said. And it looks like you're building... You are leveling her. She's not fully booked. And you don't have books. Okay, so Deez, we have 3 options here. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. Let me give you the status. You need the status to get in here. All right, you can join me now. So you can get in the coaching voice channel. All right, so we have a few different options. One is I can build you a team composition, or I could try to build you a team composition that will work once you get your Demitha fully built and up to speed, right? That's going to require you to potentially tweak the tune yourself as Demitha comes online, because she's not currently built, right? So the biggest issue here is the cooldown. You don't have a 3-turn cooldown on the block damage, and that's really critical for getting a 3-to-1 team going. So you just need another book in here, and so like that's the primary concern. Another thing is going to be the masteries, because when you get, for instance, to the Lore of Steel mastery, that might change your speed if you're using perception and speed gear. So that's also a consideration. So those are the things that you want to like kind of watch out for. Okay. Yeah, we can talk about that in just a sec. So you're thinking double Painkeeper or double Deacon. I'm going to take a look at I got an itchy nose today. I'm going to look at the roster and see what seems to work. Because you might have multiple options, and then we can decide, which of those options to go with. Now, the second, so that's the first thing. We'll try to build a future composition that you eventually will bring online. That's not a bad option. The second option is we could try to build a comp that works like today, like without the book, that might be harder depending on, again, what's on the roster, what else is available. And then the third thing we could do is say, well, maybe it's not the best time to build a Demitha tune because you don't have her geared, you don't have the, like if you don't have all the pieces, in which case we could try to maybe improve your current 3-key Ultra Nightmare team to a 2-key Ultra Nightmare team, because you're not that far away. You're about like 20% damage off. Right? You need to increase by about 20% damage to get it. Let's go ahead and look at your vaults for a second. Okay. Mark, you tend to farm stages, just real quickly, you tend to farm stages that are the highest for the energy level. So you'll notice that like the energy levels, the energy requirement to like fight the fight, right, goes up, but it's like in bands, like so stage 12 is 14 energy, and then stage 16 is 14 energy, and stage 16 has a better drop rate for gear than stage 12. So you want to farm the highest stage for the energy that you can that's efficient. So for instance, let's say
let's say you can get to 17, right? But you can't get past 17. Like, is it better to farm stage 17 or stage 16? And it kind of depends. Like 16 may just be more efficient for you in terms of energy per reward than 17. But if you can get to 20, you want to do 20, so it's that kind of thing. 20 tends to be the best mix of efficiency and reward for most players until you can max out stage 10 hard mode. Some people like 24. I don't. I think 24 is bad. It's not very efficient and the rewards aren't much better. I would rather do 20 than 24. Saves you time, saves you energy, and the drop rates are like not really better. 25 is generally bad, except for drop rates. It's better drop rates, but it's really energy inefficient. So I think your best bet is 20. And then, if you can't get 20, 16 is good. If you can't get 16, 11 is good. That kind of thing. Okay. Let's get back to this takeover. There he is. Hello. All right. So you were thinking about a double Deacon team or a double Painkeeper team. All right, I'm going back to Deadwood's site. Now here, when you're looking for speed tunes for Demitha, you can actually just come and click on Demitha, and there are some tunes that are based on champions that you can just, like, they list based on champions, so you can just come down and kind of glance through all of these, and you see there are a lot of Demitha compositions. Now, a lot of them overlap. And this is kind of interesting. So, like, for instance, if we go here and we look at this one. Open this up. Now, this is called a 2-to-1 speed tune. But you can see that it's actually sort of a 3-to-1. The reason it's called a 2-to-1 speed tune is because the two damage dealers, the two war boys, are actually only going twice in each column. But Demitha goes 3-to-1. So from a stat perspective, like this is maybe a little bit easier to reach in terms of speed for some champions. And then, the damage is not going to be as much as it would be in a true 3-to-1. A true 3-to-1 is where everybody goes 3 times. Most of them aren't really true 3-to-1s because you're using Seeker or Deacon, and each of those get extra turns. So their third turn actually comes out of the extra turn mechanic. So you can see that Deacon is going 3 times in each column, but he's not actually really going at a 3-to-1, right? He's going at a 2-to-1 with an extra turn mechanic. So this is really a 2-to-1 with the exception of Demitha and Haikatoon, who are legitimately going at 3-to-1. But the two War Boys and the Deacon are really going at a 2-to-1. Now that's fine because this is probably enough. This is probably enough. Obviously, if we look at the stat requirements here, or we even go back here, you can see that you need 2 champions over 300 speed. The other 3 champions are relatively slow. Now, one of the reasons why I'm not super fond of Demitha team is because I'm really fond of Deacon Armstrong. And Deacon is more powerful the faster he runs. And in most Demitha compositions, you never run him faster than 245 speed. Usually somewhere between 185 and 215 is usually where he lands. And then in some compositions, he's a little bit faster than that. But he never runs as fast as you would want to use him in other content, especially in Arena. I like running him at 280, 290. That's where I want my Deacon Armstrong. So this is one of the reasons why I don't use Demitha comps very often. Now, you don't have to use Deacon in every Demitha comp. And also, if you have an extra copy of Deacon, you can build a second Deacon and
specialize that Deacon for Clan Boss. But so, we could look for something else like, okay, here we've got Ultimate Myth Heir, 2 Seekers, right? And so this doesn't use a Deacon, but it uses 2 Seekers, and Seekers the same way. Like, do you want to dedicate 2 Seekers at 210 speed or 205 speed to, this team composition? Now, Clan Boss is important, so maybe it's worth it, but that's really something that you have to decide on your own. Okay, Deez. Yeah, we can talk about that as well. So now Myth Heir is the one that everybody considers, right? This is probably, from a statistical standpoint, one of the easier or less gear intensive, I should call it, less gear intensive speed tunes. So what you look here is we actually get, this is closer to a 2-to-1 than a 3-to-1, right? Again, in this comp, just like in the previous comp, you really only have 2 champions going at a 3-to-1. In this case, rather than Demitha and High Katoon, it's Demitha and Eris. So Demitha goes at a 3-to-1, Eris goes at a 3-to-1. Deacon and Seeker both have 3 turns, but they're basically running at a 2-to-1 with an extra turn mechanic. And then the 1 damage dealer. Sorry, you only have 1 damage dealer here. That's the War Boy, who's going at a 2-to-1. Now, the nice thing about this particular comp is that it can be full auto, like, quick battle, whatever. You can get it to a 1 key. It's kind of tricky to get it to a 1 key. You need a lot of good gear to get it to a 1 key. The tricky part comes with Eris. Eris can never be the stun target. She can't take a stun because she is your cleanser. And so if she gets a stun, she can't cleanse herself. That doesn't work. And therefore that throws out the speed tune because she is also the speed buff champion, right? So you need both the speed buff and the cleanse. And that means she can never take the stun. Now, the only way to make her not the stun target, she's Force Affinity, is to bring in a Force Affinity damage dealer who will absorb the stun that she then cleanses. So against Spirit Affinity, right? She's Force Affinity. She'll be Weak Affinity. She will take the stun. Now, Deacon is Spirit Affinity, Seeker is Magic Affinity, and Eris is Force Affinity, and Demitha is Void Affinity. So you have 1 of each affinity, which means everybody's going to be the stun target at some point. Maybe not Demitha, but everybody else will be the stun target. And so when you build a Myth Heir comp, in a lot of cases, you're going to want 2 different damage dealers. You do want a Force Affinity damage dealer to make sure that Eris is never the stun target against Spirit Affinity. And then against the other affinities, you can use somebody else if you want. The best combo here is, again, Geomancer in most cases, because Geo is Force Affinity. He'll take the target off of Eris's back. He'll take the stun, and he does plenty of damage, and you get 50 turns. Now, Geo is good in an unkillable comp. He's not like the craziest damage dealer in an unkillable comp, but he gets 50 turns, and that's a lot of turns, and that's enough turns usually to help get you to a 1 key with the HP burns and the damage reflection. You want to put Seeker with damage, like you don't have to build them fast, so you want 100% crit rate. You want to get as much damage out of Seeker as possible. You want to get as much damage out of Deacon Armstrong as possible. And then Demitha, you just really need the speeds. So that's the sort of the way that this composition works. That's the Myth Heir. That's the most popular one. If we look at some of the others, let's see if we can find the one. Ultimate Myth Heir with a 3-to-1 DPS. This is a little bit more damage. So if you're going for, a 1 key, this is the better speed tune. It's going to require more speed, but it gives you an extra turn on your damage dealer. So in this case, you can see Razin, Scarhide is the damage dealer. And unlike in the Myth Heir, where we had Warboy only going twice in each column, so he's the orange champion. In this case, the orange champion is Razin. He's going 3 times in each column. So again, Deacon and Seeker are each on a 2-to-1 speed tune, but they get an extra turn, so they go 3 times. Everybody else is now on a 3-to-1 speed tune. So your damage dealer is going to go more frequently. You get 3 more attacks per cycle. So 1 more attack per turn. And that is from your hardest hitter. So that's really good. But again, the reason we have Raz in here is because a Force Affinity champion needs to take the stun away from Eris. Okay. Now, there are other Demitha team. Not all of them are 3-1. Not all of them are 2-1. We have a budget myth air here that does have a the double Painkeeper composition. So in this case, you're not going at a 3-1. What you're going at is basically a 2-1, but you get the cooldown reduction. And the cooldown reduction allows you to do the same thing that the 3-1 does, which is Demitha makes you unkillable by using her A3 at the bottom of every composition. But this gets fewer turns out. Now, the upside here is that your damage dealer doesn't actually take fewer turns than in a normal myth air, right? They get 6 attacks because it's a 2-1, just like they get a 6 attacks in a normal myth air. Not the ultimate myth air with the 3-1 DPS, just the regular myth air. The War Boy, again, going only twice, right? And then we swap here to this one. Whoops. And the Ninja's going twice. It's still going to be less damage. It's still going to be less damage because Demitha takes 1 less attack, which means fewer War Master procs. Eris takes 1 less attack, which means fewer War Master procs. But the upside is that you can see that the gear requirements in terms of speed are much, much lower, right? You can get, like, the fastest champion here can run at like 255. Demitha can run at 255. So a little bit easier. But is this a 1 key? And it's listed as a 3 key Ultra Nightmare. So here's the thing. You already have a 3 key Ultra Nightmare. So swapping from that 3 key Ultra Nightmare to this 3 key Ultra Nightmare doesn't feel like an upgrade to me. The only benefit here would be that it would free you, to use those champions in different builds if you wanted to. But realistically, like, this is not an improvement. And that's the thing that you have to, like, look at. You have to look at, can I get from a 3 key to a 2 key? Can I get from a 2 key to a 1 key? This team, this budget myth air, will never be a 1 key. It just, I mean, I shouldn't say that it could never be a 1 key. I don't know that for certain. But for where you are in the game and the gear that you've got and the champions that you've got, it's never going to be your 1 key. Like, somebody might have the god tier gear and all the stats in their Great Hall and all the area bonuses, and they've got all of, like, everybody in a damage set because they've got these crazy stats, and maybe they could turn this into a 1 key. But I couldn't do it on my account. Like, I don't think I could get a 1 key out of this team. Now the other one that we were looking at, which one was it? There's the double Deacon one that we were looking at. The double Deacon one, maybe, but I'm not even sure about that. I don't think that's a 1 key either. So, if I'm looking at the Demitha teams and I'm saying, can I get a 1 key? I want, as a minimum, I want this Ultimate Myth Air with a 3-1 DPS. Right? And the stats here are, for a mid-game player, are a reach, but not impossible. The only downside, like I said, for this is that you're going to take a Deacon and a Seeker and run them slow. And mid-game players might get more value out of running them fast, like in more places. So let's go and look at your roster and see, can we build a team? Can we build a Myth Air team that's really, now we've got the Geo. So good. There is a Ruella composition we could look at. There's a Zenogre composition I know exists. In fact, I think Alex might have one. but I've never done that speed tune, and it's not a common one. It's not up on Deadwood's site because you have the increased speed here, and I think that's a 3-to-1, but I'm not 100% sure. You do have a Painkeeper already built. You do have a Deacon already built. How fast is your Deacon running? 172. Okay, so that's a pretty slow Deacon. So we could improve your Deacon and get your Deacon to like the 205 or 210 or whatever. I still think that's way too slow for Deacon. Like on your account, you should be running Deacon at 250, 260. If you want to get like optimal value out of that Deacon. Now, Astrid's interesting because she might actually. I wonder if she can be a replacement for High Katoon. Might be possible. So this is a speed tune I was thinking of. The Myth Rue Elva, right? Now it doesn't have to be Elva. The reason Elva is nice is because she brings the block debus buff, which makes it fully affinity friendly. You can see though the speeds here are like you still need to run 2 very, very fast champs. So stat wise, it might be tough. But this would more likely be. I think this would more likely be a 1 key because of Ruella. So Ruella brings a decreased defense and a weaken. So you have those 2 stats there. And then she brings an increased crit rate for all allies, which allows you to build the champions with less crit rate, allowing you to put more into crit damage. And she hits decently hard. So that's a little bit closer to a 1 key. Okay, sounds good, Deez. But again, I'm not sure we can reach the speed. I want to look at your current team. You have an interesting team. You're saying the Painkeeper is just for the mission? Yeah. So right now, Newt is bringing you that decreased attack, which is nice. And then obviously the max HP hit, and he hits really hard. Right, Rathalos pairs really well with Geomancer because Geomancer has the HP burn, which activates Rathalos' passive, and then he can hit, and he's got Soul Reap, which is nice too. So the decreased defense will fire every once in a while. 50% of the time, right? 65% of the time. So you'll get a lot of decreased defenses. I don't know, is he in any kind of revenge? No, he's not. Okay. Cardiel gives you the increased crit rate and increased crit buff. Now you're running here Rathalos at 100% crit rate. With Cardiel, you don't need to do that. You could drop him down to 70. Same thing with, Newt. Obviously, outside of this composition, if you're not running them with Cardiel all the time, then you lose that crit rate buff. There are several options here. I'm trying not to rush to judgment. I'm trying not to rush. I want to make sure that I contemplate all the possibilities. I like your current team. I think it's well thought out. I think it's using powerful champions if they're built pretty well. Like, you've obviously got the books into them, these are very strong champions. Cardiel's incredibly powerful. Newt is incredibly powerful. Rathalos pairs up with Geomancer, obviously one of the best epics in the game. So, you're getting a lot out of it. The Painkeeper here, as far as rares are concerned, to mix in, I think the options are probably Painkeeper or Apothecary. Apothecary might be slightly better. But in terms of actually designing your team composition, what you're doing right now is you're just throwing a bunch of really powerful champions at it, and it's a little bit of a glass cannon build, which doesn't optimize Geo. If it doesn't optimize Geo, then it doesn't optimize Rathalos. Do you need both of those champions with, Newt? But Newt brings the decreased attack, which maybe gives you more turns, right? The decreased attack keeps you survivable a little bit longer. So I'm like, how would we tweak that? Would we pull Newt or would we pull Rathalos to try to bring in some tankiness? But you don't really have a tank that I would want to do that with other than Taragi. Taragi is the clear choice, right? I don't think you have another. I'm like, this is the, and by the way, Taragi is a great choice, but I don't think any of the other ally protectors are as good a choice. Now Naya is interesting because she does have a strengthen, a lesser strengthen buff, but unfortunately she's just too squishy. She dies more than Taragi does. And so does Miscreated Monster. But you could go with the double ally protect thing. You could go that way, and I'm starting to think, okay, now that this is a pretty complicated rebuild. If we're going to do a complicated rebuild, would we be better off just going for an unkillable composition? And I think an unkillable composition is more likely to get you a 1 key. And you have an unkillable composition that isn't a 3-1 Demitha team because you have Roshgar the Tower. Now, Roshgar the Tower is a block damage champion. So he has this skill that places a block damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. And we're in the same situation that we're in with Demitha, which is we're still books short. So that means you couldn't get this done today. So this is what we have a situation. We have do we try to tweak what you've currently got to get you to a 2 key if we can. And can we literally do that? Or does it take too many resources to do that? Or are we better off creating that future team that I think is going to be your one key? Now, if we go back to the website, let's clear out all of these. And we just go up to here to speed tunes again. We could look for anything with Roshgar the Tower here. Here we go. I think this is the one. I think Fast Tower Skull Crusher. Well, no, not the Skull Crusher. The Fast Tower. No, this is not it either. This works. I think this is the one. But I'm not. It's not the Skull Crusher one, though. The Myth Tower is the one that would be easiest. So here we go. We have Demitha and Roshkard. And in this case, you're probably running, I don't know, it might be a 4-3. It's not even. It's close to a 1-1. So it's a lot slower. Let me see. There are other ones. That one's not fast. That's not going to get you a 1. I don't know if you can do this with. Yeah, we can. Okay. So this is the one. I think this is the one. Yeah, and it's tuned against Spirit as well. The question is stun targeting. All right, so in this composition, I don't know. Do you have Doom Priest? You don't have to have Doom Priest, but you do. Okay, you do have Doom Priest. So in this composition, what happens is you get to bring in. Well, it's still 1 damage dealer. It's so I think it's easier to build because you don't have any crazy speeds. The fastest is the Roshguard here at 285, which would be your Demitha. But you have to book 2 champions to get this done.
With the right damage dealer, though, this is a 1 key. It might be a 1 key with Geo. Now, in this case, it's running Helicath, right? So what we would do here is we would actually swap in the Rosh Guard here. And we would swap in the Demyth. And the way this would work is, I think, no, it's not a clean swap because it's a 4-turn cooldown. Yeah, the way to do this is to have it like this. So let's see. She's not currently booked. She is booked to a 4-turn cooldown. And what is he booked to? He's on a 6-turn. So if you didn't book her any further, you could do this. So basically what happens is, you can see I've put her on a 4-turn cooldown here on her A3. So she goes block damage. That's her A3 right here at the bottom of, right before the first AoE from the clan boss. That blocks a damage for everybody. Now Rosh Guard does the same thing in the middle column, right? So here in the middle column, he places his A2. Now his A2 is up for 2 turns. So that means even though Demytha goes after him, she's only going to drop 1 duration of a 2-turn duration block damage. So everybody is covered for the AoE too, right? Because everybody else just had it applied. And then we get back to column 3 and you can see now it's Demytha's turn and she does the same thing. Now in the next row, it'll reverse. Rosh Guard will cover 2 of the 3, right? And Demytha will cover 1 of the 3. So she'll cover the middle and Rosh Guard will come in. So it's every other turn. Demytha blocks damage, then Rosh Guard blocks damage, then Demytha, then Rosh Guard, then Demytha, then Rosh Guard. You can do this with a Warcaster, by the way. It doesn't have to be Demytha. You could do this with another 2-turn block damage champ like Helicath. You could do it with 2 Rosh Guards. Basically, they're just swapping. So because they're on a 2-to-1 and it's a 4-turn cooldown, right? Every 12 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, they fire their skill 3 times. Every 12 champion turns, right? So that means 6 clan boss turns because it's a 2-to-1. So 2 champions fire the block damage 3 times on 6 clan boss turns. So you get 1 every turn. And that's how you can go with a Demytha who's on a 4-turn cooldown or another champion on a 4-turn cooldown like a Warcaster. So this would be another option. So what I'm trying to think of is like if this were my account at this point in time, would I invest in a Demytha comp? And if I did, which one? And I think a lot of it's going to be about the gear. So let's take a look at the gear for a quick second. And let's just see if we can even get Demytha to like 300 speed or close. So I'm looking for speed or perception or divine speed, basically. That's what I'm looking for. I want 6-star speed boots. They don't currently have a free set here. Let's see. What about this? Okay, if we stole those from Rector Draft, She doesn't need any perception, by the way. Like, we would use that simply because we want the speed. You have free gear removal this week? Yeah, that's nice. All right, let's go ahead and roll these. Hopefully we get a couple of double. That's nice. When you're building an unkillable, this is one of the times where you literally don't care about the main stat on the piece of gear for Demitha. Because all you care about is getting her to the speed, and then she's unkillable, right? Like, so defenses don't matter. If you wanted to go attack, you could. Like, you could build crit rate on her. You could do whatever you want. Well, let's get at least 1 or 2 speed here. That's unfortunate. But okay, so we're at 250 speed here. Now we have not used any glyphs. So let's say on average you get 3 out of a glyph, or 4 out of a glyph if you want to be generous. 1, 2, 3. We have 6 glyphs. That'd be 24 speed. That'd get us to 274. You add Lore of Steel, which is going to give us an additional 5.4% speed, which would be about another, call it 5 speed. So like you could get her to 280 right now with this. If you really glyphed hard, maybe you could get her to 290, which might be fast enough for one of the slower speed. So that feels tricky to me. It feels like maybe the gear's not quite there. Now, you might be able to peel gear off of other champions and get it there. But if we're looking at the Roshguard comp, the nice thing is you don't have to book Demitha anymore. You do have to book Roshguard. And these speeds, like this is 285, which it feels like if you stretch, you can maybe reach, or relatively soon. You know, the issue that goes along with this is there are 3 fast champions here, right? Or at least, yeah, there are 3 fast champions because there's Demitha at 285, this DPS at 253, and this Roshguard at 249. I don't consider the 226 Deacon to be fast. Like anything under like 240 is not a fast champion. I don't think even for this. You can build DPSs at 220 sometimes, so it's like DPSs, nukers. Sorry. Somebody called me out for using the term DPS in a video recently. Like, I use DPS, damage per second. It's a MMO thing. So I certainly think I think this would almost certainly be with Geomancer, it would almost certainly be a 2-key Ultra Nightmare without any difficulty. I don't think you have to do anything crazy here. I think Doom Priest gives you an increased attack, which is nice, gives you a little bit of extra damage on some champions.
You've got your decreased defense from Deacon. You've got your weaken from Geomancer. You've got your unkillables, so you're going to get 50 turns. And you got the HP burn. You're going to have 50 turns of HP burn. You're going to have 50 turns of reflection from Geomancer. Well, Geo's not necessarily the stun target, so you're not going to get 50 turns of reflection. You're going to get 2/3 of that, so roughly 33-ish turns of reflection. You get all of those War Master proc. So this feels like a reasonable option. By the way, this is where I got my first one key Ultra Nightmare. I ran a composition just like this. I ran it with Ninja as my damage dealer, but I also overshot the mark by like double. Like I was doing like 140 million damage and you only need 71, right? So this is certainly possible to run this kind of composition and do, get it done. Get it done. Now I think you can run this with a block damage instead. Not a block damage, a block debuffs instead. But you'd have to read the. I don't actually see it here. Oh, here we go. 2-turn block debuff champ. So you could run it with a 2-turn block debuff champ instead of the Doom Priest. So let's see. We did. Was this what we were just doing? It's a Deacon Forever. Okay, Deacon Forever. Yeah, so why are the speeds weird? Let me Okay, so it's yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the War Boy. Let's see. It would be the War Boy. So let's say in this case, we did a block debuff champion. So you do have Cardiel, right? So we could put Cardiel here. Not working. So I don't understand. I don't understand something here about this. $268. Wait. Oh, you know what it is? The priority. That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah, so what this would do is this would block the stun every turn. So you could put Cardiel there and then pull the Doom Priest for for Geomancer. The only thing is, I'm not sure that this would work against Spirit Affinity. Yeah, it doesn't work against Spirit Affinity. There must be some other tweak that you have to do for this. So, but, you know, the point being that if you can get this to work, maybe it's the Demitha. Maybe the Demitha removes the stun. No, Demitha doesn't remove the stun. Demitha's not part of this comp. Never mind. Like, she's not part of that. No, she's not part of this comp. Yeah. But this would allow you to, you know, get more damage in, right? If you have that cleanser, you can do damage. If you have Brogni, that's even better. Brogni hits hard. You know, although you got to watch out with Brogni and Geo because of the HP burn interaction. But, you know, if you have Cardiel here, you could use that. Or, you know, you keep the cleanser in. You keep the Doom Priest. You already have Doom Priest built. I think it's an automatic. I think it's an automatic 2-key Ultra Nightmare, and it would not require, I don't think, ridiculous gear. I think you could get, you know, if you look at the stats here, right? You've got the 19% speed aura from Deacon Armstrong. So the build speeds are 226, 285, 249, you know, 253 and 201. And some of these might actually have some flexibility. Like you might be able to, yeah, like you can slow this champion down to 248, maybe, you know, like depending on their base speeds, that might be able to change a little. So I like this comp for you. I think that would be a good one to shoot for. And I think the nice thing about it also is if in the future you decide you want to switch to a 3-to-1 tune, your Demitha is already close and you don't have to find books for her, right? You don't have to find another book. In fact, you can't book. You can't book this. You can't book the A2 because if you get another book into this A3, it stops working. Now, the only other thing that you could do is if you have a, you don't have a Warcaster. So if you did in the future pull, what is he? Is it Bannerlord? Yeah. If you pull this guy, right, he has a 1-turn block damage skill on a 4-turn cooldown. So you could fully book him, right? Or you could not fully book Demitha. But in the future, if you wanted to go to the 3-to-1 speed tune with Demitha, you just fully book her out and you're already close to the speed. You just have to add, you know, maybe 10 speed. And probably that's all you need. And then you would be there. So just to like give you somewhere to work off of, you would be doing Deacon, Roshguard, Demitha, Doom Priest, and then probably Geomancer. That's what the team would look like. I think it's reasonable. I like it. It certainly has the potential for 1 key in the long run. Once you get the stats in the gear, you could turn this into a 1 key. It may be closer than I think. It might already be like 60 million a key or something. Geo on 50 turns is really good. I don't have Geo, so I don't have that option. But if you get 50 turns out of Geo and he's built right, he's very good. He's going to get a lot of damage. And, you know, the fact that you have an increased attack, a decreased defense, and a weaken here means that everybody's going to be hitting pretty hard. You know, so like in this particular case, you would try to get extra damage out of Doom Priest, like put her in a toxic set. You try to get, you know, extra damage out of Demitha if you can. If you have anything left over in your gear after you've got the speeds, you know, you go for crit rate, crit damage if you can. Obviously, everybody needs masteries. Deacon, running so slow can definitely hit harder than, you can put crit rate, crit damage on them. Or another toxic set, you could do that. Same thing with Roshguard. It's not running so fast you couldn't like use a toxic set here. I wouldn't put like 3 toxic sets on this team. You're going to fill up the bar at that point, maybe, because you're running pretty fast. But you could certainly put 2 toxic sets out there, I think, because you're not filling up the debuff bar so much. But here's the important thing. You don't want to force the HP burn off of the board, right? Geomancer's HP burn must always be on the board. That's incredibly important. And also the weaken and the decreased defense you want up there. So you don't want to like get 10 poisons. You don't want that potential. But if you could get 4 poisons out there or 5 poisons pretty consistently, that's probably great, because then you have the weaken, decreased defense, HP burn, and you still have 7 spots for our other stuff. You don't need a decreased attack with this comp because it's unkillable. And if you look at Roshguard, he does have this skill, block active skills, and block buffs. You want to turn this off. You don't want to waste debuff spots, right? You don't need that. So he's just going to A1. Okay, sorry, Deez. Deez got disconnected and hasn't seen the entire video. So yeah, you can always go back and watch it. I think this is a very good goal. This is what I would shoot for. Super friendly, right? 4 epics. Full affinity friendly, right? Because of the Doom Priest, just full affinity friendly should work just fine. And then, unkillable. So you get guaranteed 50 turns. The affinity shouldn't really matter. You might not do awesome against Spirit Affinity because, Geo's going to be weak affinity there. And he's going to be like 60 or 70, 80% of your damage. But it should be fine. Now, you do have another option, which is you don't have to necessarily do this comp. You could try this instead. You could try in affinity situations, you could try this instead. Right now, you need to know who's going to be the stun target. Do you know what I mean? But if a DPS is the stun target, it's not the worst thing in the world, because you don't need to block buffs. You don't always need to block buffs or a cleanse. You could, as long as Deacon, Demitha, and Roshguard never take a stun, that's okay, because they create the speed tune. The DPS, when they take a stun, they just lose damage, right? But if you're replacing that with another damage dealer, so you can actually like swap your DPS here based on affinity to create multiple comps that would work. But what this means is, like, Deacon is vulnerable because Deacon has to be the lead. So you would have to force that stun targeting. So against magic affinity, he's going to be the stun target. You would have to force it past him onto another spirit affinity champion. So you would need a spirit affinity damage dealer. In this case, maybe Newt. And you would have to use, for Deacon, in order to force that past, you would have to probably use, well, it doesn't matter. You would have to use the Steadfast Mastery, which means getting over to the accuracy tree is a little bit trickier, which is usually better for him, but it's not a huge deal. You could always, you could come through here and get to Swarm Smiter and then get to Lore of Steel or whatever. You just can't use Rapid Response. Actually, for Deacon, I guess you could, because he doesn't place any buffs. But you can't use Arcane Celerity, because that'll change his turn meter. So that's what I think I've got for you. I mean, I'm sorry, we don't have the materials to build this team. So this was more of like a theory crafting kind of takeover. Because regardless of what we do, we either need a ton of gear, so we need silver, or we need books for somebody. The last thing that we could really look at is just that Taragi the Frog. See how, what he's at. Like, he's not really built. He is booked, though. Typically, when you do an ally protect team, you do a slow tune. You typically do something like a 4-3 tune or a 1-1 tune for most of your champions, which doesn't give you as many turns to land proc. But if you can bring the right champions, you can potentially survive long enough to get, a 2 key or a 1 key. Now, with what you've got going on currently, so with this team, you have healing, right? You have healing from Cardiel and you have healing from Painkeeper. But the only real defensiveness that you have is Geo's passive mitigation, right? So it reduces the damage that people take. Now, Newt is a defensive-based damage dealer, so he may be relatively tanky. Yeah, he's got, 3,500, almost 3,500 defense. Cardiel's got over 3,000 defense. So really the weak link here is Rathalos. Where's Geo's defense? Geo's at 20, almost 2,400. So Geo's a little bit on the fragile side here. That's a really nice shield, dude. 23 speed there. I would put that on. I would put this on your Arbiter. How fast is your Arbiter? 267. What's her shield at? 17 plus 2. So I would swap shields there. I would get this shield onto your Arbiter and glyph that with a 6-star glyph. And if you can get 8, that's 31 speed there instead of 19. That's a lot of extra speed to get onto your Arbiter. But anyway. And then Taragi's, defense is too low. You're not really built yet. So, but if you could get Taragi with a nice 4K defense and get him at the right speed and actually speed tune, and in that case, when you're looking at this, like you don't need a speed tune. Like you don't need a pre-built speed tune. You can just come in here and just go to the calculator, take a calculator, and just start plugging in what you want. So, I think his ally protection is on a 3-turn cooldown. So it would be something along the lines of, let's say you would take Deacon out. So let's say you were running Cardiel, in your lead. And then you're running Newt, and you're running Newt gives you the decreased attack. Yeah, you don't really have a strengthen or increased defense champion. So I probably wouldn't go ally protector. I don't think I would go ally protector route without at least an increased defense champion that was really reliable. And it doesn't look like you have one right now. Let's see if you got somebody in the vault that does it. Iron Brago. Okay, so Iron Brago, but that's a legendary champion that you would have to build. And so, we're closer to Roshguard at that point. Iron Brago is really nice for clan boss for this. So if you're using an ally protector, he brings an increased defense on all allies for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So that's 100% uptime on your increased defense. In addition, he is another decreased attack champion, but he has this passive. Increases the defense of all allies by 10% of this champion's defense. So he's got a really nice base defense when he's at 6 stars. And so you can easily get an extra like 400 or 500 defense onto every other champion. You could also put him in a Guardian set. So you put him in a Guardian set, which protects your ally protector a little bit, plus the increased defense on your ally protector. And that's a nice combo. But otherwise, I don't really see it right here. I mean, we're looking at building more champion, which is just like, if we're building champions, we might as well go with the unkillable. So I don't know that there's an easy way to improve. You could straight up just try the ally protection. You could just be like, let me just do, where is he? Let me just do this and see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, just get that ally protection out there, see if that extends your life. Again, it's experimentation. When you're doing an untuned speed tune, in a lot of cases, it's just trying things out. Just trying things out, see what works. I love Cardiel here because Cardiel gives you the block debuffs, the increased crit rate, the increased crit damage, the ally attack, healing on the passive. So I love Cardiel in this role. Plus the speed aura. I definitely wouldn't remove Cardiel if I didn't have to. And he can work in a 1-to-1 ratio as well. Like, you don't have to run him in a fast comp because he doesn't have any turn meter fill and he doesn't have an increased speed buff. So you can run him in a slow comp. And an ally attack champion in a slow comp is one of the ways to increase the damage. Right? So this gives you opportunities to just push the damage with the ally attacker and the increased crit damage buff. So you could try something like that. But right now, it feels like that Roshguard team, like, this is the team to work towards, I think. That's it. I think that's the team to work for. I definitely would not do the double Painkeeper team, Demetha. I think you're stepping backwards. At the best, you would have to work really, really, really hard to get that to a 2-key Ultra Nightmare. I think you're closer to a 2-key Ultra Nightmare than that team would be. So I wouldn't use the double Painkeeper. By the way, it's okay to build 2 Painkeepers. 2 Painkeepers are useful in a lot of other places. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't think that increases your damage in the clan boss. The double Deacon scenario, I don't love that either, right? Really, because you're still running 2 slow Deacons. It's like, why? You could run 1 slow Deacon and 1 fast Deacon, which is better for your account. And then since you already have these champions here, and again, you don't have to book Demetha past this point because she's got the 4-turn cooldown. Everybody here is already built. The only thing you're missing is books on Roshguard. And I think you're going to have the speeds that you need relatively easily. It feels like you have the gear to get this done. So that's definitely where I would go. I would try that first. And again, with the understanding that, if you could make the Cardiel block debuffs situation work instead of the Doom Priest, that would be better. Right? Because then you get the ally attack. And remember, ally attacks give you 5 A1. And every A1 has a chance of proccing War Master or Giant Slayer. In this case, all War Masters. So every ally attack is like a full cycle of War Master chances. So that's why this would be better, in addition to the, the crit rate and crit damage buff. You lose the increased attack, but it's a worthwhile trade. And Cardiel's my favorite champion in the game. You got two of my favorite champions in the game on this roster right now. Deacon Armstrong, my favorite epic in the game, and Cardiel, my favorite legendary in the game. You're right. Geo's Burn is affinity friendly. No, Geo's Reflect is affinity friendly. Let me double check. I don't run Geo, so it's possible that I messed up. So this HP burn is not a hit. It can't weak hit. Gotcha. So it is affinity friendly. Okay. So it can't weak hit. So my bad. When deflecting damage on each enemy hit has a 30% chance of dealing additional damage equal to 3% of the target's max HP. Can that hit weak hit or crit? Do you know? Can the deflection? I don't think it can, right? It's just a straight percentage. How should you build your Lady Kimmy? Fast and accurate. 3 sets of perception. Or 2 sets of perception and a set of speed. Get her over 300 speed. Build her fast as you can, and as much accuracy as you can pile on her. It depends. If you're only using her PvE in like Doom Tower, then speed is a little bit less necessary than accuracy. If you're building her for PvP, then accuracy is a little bit more critical than speed, depending on who you're running her with. I thought it was decided that Venom Mage was female. But there's now champion lore. So that's new. I mean, relatively new. The practitioners of these magics are the Venom Mages. So Venom Mage is not a particular Venom Mage, but like a class. Let's see. Among the lizardmen, stories persist of a particularly ancient and powerful member of their kind to which all others owe deference, most commonly known as Sylath. He is said to live deep within the Sorrow Lakes. So this is Venom Mage, not Sylath. We might get Sylath in the future. Who knows? But this is a class of champion. I always thought it was a male character. And then somewhere along the line, somebody told me that like it'd been definitively decided it was a female character. And I don't care. I don't care. So I started calling her she like a year ago. Before that, I was calling Venom Mage he. I don't know that it matters. Doesn't bother me. Either way. He uses the female staff animation. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm flexible. Whatever. It definitely feels like a feminine body model, right? So, like Cythalia, you think? Yeah, similar stance. Does the same. So the knee tuck is the thing, right? Does Venom Mage do the knee tuck? Come on, do your animation. Do your animation, Venom Mage. I mean, you could make the argument that the faction is called Lizard Men, and you could say they're all men, but then there'd be another faction, the Lizard Women. Yep, does the knee tuck. You're right. Does the knee tuck just like Cythalia. So yeah, the female character. Or female body model, right? Who cares? But all right, so these, I hope, I know that this was a lot of theory crafting and just more coaching than really building or anything. I think the Rosh Guard, the tower, is great. By the way, and this is for everybody, if you have Helicath, this is the best block damage champion in the game. By far. Like, I don't even think it's close. Okay, this is by far the best block damage champion in the game. Better than Rosh Guard or Cernic or Alsgor or whoever. Like, better than everybody. This is the best one for a whole lot of reasons. First of all, you get ally defense in all battles. So he's a defensive based champion, which is nice. You're like, oh, I don't need that for a block damage champion. It's like, yeah, but this is a tank, right? So you've got a shield that is proportional to the champion's defense. So you do damage based on defense. You have a shield size based on defense, and then tankiness based on defense. So that's just like Wixwell. So you can build this champion for an unkillable composition, great. Or you could build him just straight up tanky, and he's great. You've got block damage for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. And then whenever a block damage buff placed on an ally by this champion is removed, stolen, or expires, places an increased defense buff. So that champion gets increased defense. You've got a passive that increases this champion's defense based on the block damage. Counterattacks with a default skill whenever an ally is hit while under a block damage buff can only occur once per enemy turn. So when the clan boss attacks everybody when they're under a block damage buff, doesn't have to be a block damage buff by this champion, by the way, just any block damage buff. Helicath counterattacks. So you're going to get more attacks there. And by the way, that A1 has a 50% chance on each hit of placing the large weaken. So a 75% chance of landing a weaken as long as he doesn't weak hit. This does ignore shield and block damage buffs, which is really nice in Arena. Crazy good champion. And can hit so freaking hard. Plus really nice base stats, 19k HP, almost 1450 defense, 102 base speed, even 50 base resistance. So it's like easy to build this guy. Absolutely. And the coolest looking out of all of them. Awesome champion. So if you pull Helicath before you complete your Rosh Guard build Helicath instead. That weekend alone would add, probably 20% damage to your result. Although I guess you're running Geo. Never mind. But still, the counterattack will add damage. And he's not an HP based wuss like Rosh Guard. He's a defensive based god. Like Newt and Wixwell. Yeah, Kai, I was just joking. They're not all men. I'm not saying they're all men. I was being sarcastic. I was, you know, they're the only I guess Bannerlords is gender specific, right? But everything else, like High Elves, Sacred Order, Barbarians, like those could all be gender neutral or whatever you would call it. Like none of these, like Spawn, Kin, Watchers, Revenant, it's not gender specific. But men clearly is, and I guess Lords technically is as well, right? It's not Banner Ladies, it's Banner Lords, but whatever. And actually, a lot of the best champions in the game are female. That's one of the things I like about Raid. And this is just I'm not trying to be political here. This is just a personal thing. I like how many badass female characters there are that are not ridiculously overly sexualized. You know, like there are some that are, but there are a lot of them that are very good champions who are not. You know, you look at them and they look powerful or scary or overwhelming, you know, or ugly even. You know, it's like you look at you know, like this is a hideous female character, but she's terrifying. She's terrifying. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the variety of it and that they don't, you know, they're not insulting me as much. I mean, early on they kind of were with some of the body models, you know, where it's like they're not insulting me by I mean, I'm 50 years old. You know what I mean? Like I don't play the game to look at, you know, I don't mind it. I don't mind when there's an attractive female character. You know, but when you come here and you're like, you know, it's like thongs, you know, and like, I don't care about that either. Like, I want my badass characters to look badass. I don't care if they're male or female. You know, like she looks cool. She looks dangerous, you know. But this is, well, that they're just, some of the early models were just ridiculous, right? She's kind of a good example, though. Although this is also fairly sexualized, but it's like she looks scary as hell. Like if you ran into that in a dark alley, you would definitely walk the other way. Be like, no, not happening. But yeah, so I like the variety of body models. I think that's cool. And they've done a good job in adding to that over the years. Whereas I think early on, the body models were really, there was much less variety amongst the men as well. You know, and you can just look at like the rares and the uncommons, you know, and you can see like, okay, they use this character model 10 times. You know what I mean? Like how many champions have this body model? There's so many of them, you know, and you're like, okay, so that's Jaeger. And then it's like, well, let's go look at, where is he? You know, like they just use it over and over. Marksman, this guy, that's what I was thinking. It's the exact same guy. The uncommon and the epic have the exact same body model, you know, and they also don't look great. I mean, you look at the faces and you're like, it's like, this looks cheesy. And then you look at a character that was made more recently, even another epic that was, say, you know, came out in the last year or something. You're like, all right, Ethlin, you know, different, looks better, like cooler, much more interesting. And he's still an epic. You look at this guy and then you know, not him. You look at him and you're like, why? You know? Or Neldor. You know, Neldor came out recently. Completely different look, you know? Very cool. So I like that they've done that. I think she's really cool looking. Now, this is the way I like epics to look. Not overly done, not too many special effects, but some detail and some uniqueness. I mean, the gold eyes with the, you know, the pale makeup and the dark lips and the tattoos on her face, and the hair's not the same freaking hair that every female elf has, you know. And it's like, I know the elven kind of ear wings is a thing, but like these are a little bit different than the other ones we've seen, because if you go over here and you look at Yannicka, you know, it's like, oh, okay, we've got that. You know, this is a legendary who's like a little bit less interesting, a little bit doesn't pop quite as much. It's still kind of cool. And then, you know, of course, there's Sure Money, who's the exact same champion. Right? I mean, look at it. It just kind of makes you mad. You know, it's like, and these are two legendary champions, and then you look at an epic who was created, you know, when did she come out? Like 6-8 months ago? Like, she's cooler looking. You know, but also legendaries now have more like, you know, they get this, right? They get the glowy weapon. They get a whole extra layer of armor or like decoration on the armor. And this is like a relatively tame legendary from the last year. You know, there are others who are a little bit more, you know, intense. Who was I thinking of? I mean, I honestly feel like the high elves, in terms of their body mechanics and animations, really aren't generally as cool. I like Deliana. I think she's cool looking. Supreme Elhane's okay. I like Tatura. I do think he's cool. I think this is one of the coolest looking champions. Yeah, he's recent. I mean, again, you know, very cool looking level of detail. This feels like a legendary to me, although he doesn't have any of the glow going on really, other than yeah, he doesn't really have the glow, but I think he's ornate to a level that I like, where he's not like ridiculous, but you know, he's definitely ornate but still functional, I guess. You know, call this like ceremonial armor, but you know, and then you look at Lysandra from a couple of years ago and like underwhelming, right? Cool champion, but kind of underwhelming. You know, but you get these old epics. I mean, I like Tayrell. Tayrell is one of the cooler looking old epics, but you can see like the decreased level of detail here versus the new epics. Even, you know, somebody from like last year, right? Like Andrissia with the glow on the shield and all the extra details here. Like this epic looks more legendary than this epic, who was like one of the cooler early epics in the game. Exemplar looks the worst in the game. Exemplar. Yeah. Yeah, she's awful. I mean, even, you know, like, this is a rare who's come out fairly. This is a very cool looking champion. Like, yeah, she's not a legendary champion. I get that. You know, she would be better looking than most early game epics. Like most of the epics that's, you know, in the first 18 months of Raid did not look this cool. This is a cool looking rare. I like the detail on the cloak. I like that, you know, she's got a little bit of a different makeup thing going, that her ears are unique, you know, that those aren't everywhere. I mean, there are other champions that use this, but you can see like the variation here. So like you got Prosecutor, right? Which is like, this is similar, but kind of cool looking. A little bit ridiculous with all the, you know, the leg, but whatever. But like, you know, as a rare goes, I like this rare. You know, I like, feels a little bit more unique. Unfortunately, not a great champion. You know, there's another one. I think they did a pretty good job, you know, making a little bit different. It's like, you don't have to completely revamp the rare. You know, like the rares don't have to, each rare does not have to be completely unique. Like, that's fine with me. I don't mind that you reuse the body models a little bit. As long as you give them a twist, as long as you make them, visually different from each other. Because when you look at, Magister, and then you look at Apothecary, like, first of all, they look bad, but then they also look identical. Like, the differences are not enough for you to be like, oh yeah, those are clearly different champions. Like, you don't even, every time you pull a Magister, you're like, oh, did I get an Apothecary? Like, every time. And you're like, no, it's not an Apothecary. But I mean, I think this, like, Adjudicator is fine. This is kind of cool. It's like, yeah, she shares a character model with, other Hyria and Fencer are the same, right? Yeah. Slightly different stance, it looks like. Like the arms in a different shape, right? But another bad Avenger. Ian says, it's okay, Colred. I've had offers for at least 3 skins in the last week. They'll offer to sell us more soon. They can kill it, right? They can kill it, even for rares, even for epics. They can do a great job. I mean, Ursula, I think, is very cool looking. And she's not new. She's been around for several, I don't know, like 3 years at this point. She's been around for a long time. I don't know if she launched with the game. I don't remember that far back. But she's been around for as long as I've been playing, which is 3 years at least. So, when you look at her, she has the same stance as a lot of spear-wielding female champions. She's doing the same thing that Cythalia's doing in Venom Mages with the little knee tuck and whatever. But you don't confuse her for anybody else. You know exactly who she is when you look at her. Her portrait is different. Do you know what I mean? And then you click on her and you're like, yeah, this is a cool looking champ. She's somewhere between like a knight with the armor and like a nun or something, like, or maybe like a lady in waiting. I don't know. She's a cross between a couple of things, and she's like, the color scheme is cool. She's got this weird mask on her hip. The shield I like. I love the spear. It's got a little bit of a glow to it. It's not quite a legendary glow, but it's like, she looks better than a lot of legendaries do. And I like the fact that you look at her and you don't think about, oh, this is another champion. I don't care if she stands the same way that Cythalia does. You don't look at Ursula and think Cythalia. Now, when you look at Cythalia, like, she's okay. I would, like, from a visual standpoint, I think Ursula is much more impressive than Cythalia. And this is a legendary champion. Now, Cythalia is a good champion. I like having her. I like Ursula. I like these two champions. So I'm not saying anything about the champions from that standpoint. I'm just saying visually, Cythalia is less individual. She doesn't stand out as much. She's not as impressive. She doesn't have a spear glow. She doesn't have a cool, like, and again, I don't think there's a lot of champions in the game that look just like her, right? Because the hairstyle, I think, is unique. And the face model might be unique. I don't know that that's copied anywhere. Chronicler Adlin is kind of cool. She's, again, she I don't know why, because she's not white hair, but she reminds me a little bit of Cruella de Vil, or like, maybe more like the evil stepmother. Maybe that's what she is, like Cinderella's evil stepmother or something. But again, unique hair, color scheme, which is kind of cool. She's got the floating book with the glow. I like it. Like, this is a unique look to a champion. Manaya, a little bit of a Three Musketeer kind of thing, I guess, going. Kind of cool. Again, I don't think that hair goes like on another character. Kind of cool looking. I wish they would do a skin for her. They could do cool skins for like a Musketeer kind of style champion, I think. This looks a little dated to me. It's not bad. It's not bad. But this, this is insane. Like the level of detail here, is insane compared to some of the older Legendary. This guy. Podrick and Astrid. The way their hands grip I guess. Yeah, I guess. Here's the thing about that. I think it's like you see that in this screen, but I don't know how that translates to actually in the game, right? So like if we go to an actual fight, like let's go to an arena fight. Yeah, see, so here she's holding the staff just fine. Like you can't really see, but it doesn't look bad here. So it may just be that it's more of the up close. And even this, I mean, if this is the same animation, it may be that from the other side it looks stupid. So like when she's an enemy, I don't know. But yeah. I wonder what's happened. I wonder what's changed that they don't do that as well anymore. I don't know. Okay, so it is 5 p.m. here. That is it for me today. Thank you to my 2 account takeover winners. Thanks for hanging out and let me tool around on your account. I do appreciate it. It is an expression of trust, and I definitely don't take it for granted. I want to make sure that I've got these here in the right situation. I think these might have gone offline. But yeah, I will be back next week with more takeovers. In the meantime, good luck on your fusion if you are doing the fusion. If you're not doing the fusion, good luck on not doing the fusion. Have some fun with some downtime. Enjoy the game. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your summer if it's summertime, or if where you are is winter, enjoy your wintertime. But definitely enjoy your days. And I'm going to go hang out with my baby boy. So that's it. That's it for me today. And again, thanks as always for the support of me and of the channel. If you are a member, I appreciate you, and I will try to be answering your comments more frequently if I can. All right, that is it for me today. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you soon.